Hello everybody and welcome to the day number 4 here at World Snooker Wuhan Open, and it's now the big tournament and it's Mark Selby against Mark Williams, the world number 5 in the WST ranking against the world number 9. The former finalist in the last year's World Championship is going to be up against one of the most interesting players to see in terms of the safety battle, Williams being one of the most attacking player on tour. And the players are already walking out here, and it's Selby that's going to start the match with the break of his. Have to say, really looking forward to this match a lot more than to sort of Selby-Gilbert match previously. I think it'll be a cracker with two styles and two completely different players colliding here on the pitch, with Mark Williams being the more aggressive of the two and Mark Selby being the one that likes to take the conservatory approach and take his time, especially when it comes to taking early chances. For now though, it's Williams that has a safety shot to potentially try and deal with, as now he will consider all of his options at this moment in time. And in the end he goes cross table there, so once again, just a safety I would have thought, but he decided to go for a potential long pot, leaving the cue ball quite closely onto the ball carrier. So no damage done to himself there. I think he was always going to just try and eliminate that red, never really playing for the black, and potentially try and give himself a little bit of extra room if he was to find the pot with that red, and try and get himself onto the next color with a decent safety. Selby himself there goes for a nice little cheeky double. Lands on the black ball nicely in case that would have gone in, but it didn't. And it's Williams that will now come back to the table. So the position here in the first frame earlier on, I would say, is not as open as you would expect it to be. But I think that's about to change in the upcoming safety shots between the two of them. But Williams, once again, just taking his time and putting the cue ball right on the black ball cushion there. Now, Selby has to do something about it. I think one option is going to be play one of the reds into the left middle and just leave the cue ball on the ball cushion area. Just has to make sure he doesn't leave anything Williams can do in terms of the potting angles. But for now, it's looking good here for Selby, as it is the kind of position that you'd expect him to thrive in and sort of dominate. So he goes for the other approach. So once again, the cue ball back to the ball carrier, and the red transitioning back onto the left and bottom side of the table. Done well there, Selby, to make sure that there was a yellow ball between the cue ball and the target ball of his. So doing everything right so far. And now it's Williams that has to find an answer. So far he's been able to do that just about fine. But once again has got a little invitation there into the middle pocket. And now, of course, you can see that that hasn't worked out for him too nicely. I mean, the cue ball positioning is good, but the red seemed like it was going to go towards the yellow pocket, but ends up on the cushion there. So a nice safety all-in-all play there. And I think Selby will go for the shot very similar to the one he's gone for a couple of shots ago, and just double up into the cushion and end up with the cue ball tied up on the black ball cushion there. Hasn't worked out for him as nicely this time though. And maybe a little momentum shift here in favor of Williams. He's got a chance himself, but decides against it and just gonna roll up into the bunch. So no risks taken. Has to make sure he judges the pace perfectly, and he has. So once again, the turn goes to Selby. And I'd say in this safety battle, the momentum has been with Selby as well. But still early days here, as we've only had so the first 5 shots each here from the safety play, would seem. the first place. Selby does seem to be like he's getting a little bit more quicker in terms of adapting to the table and the conditions earlier on here, but as you would probably expect, given that this is the sort of circumstance that favors Selby, especially if you look at his style of play. Williams was more of a break building person and tries to be on the front foot a lot more times than Selby. Goes for the shots that not a lot of players go for actually, but still, funnily enough, seems to make them majority of those times. Once again, Williams here, taking his time on the next shot. Just seeing what is the best possible option that he can try and get out of this position. In the end, goes for a pretty safe shot, I would say, just rolling up to the bunch and leaving Selby with a lot of freedom in terms of what he wants to do next. And I think he'll be, once again, slightest developments of the position and sending the cue ball back down the table again. So, nicely done there by Selby. Once again, I have to say at least 8 reds are heavily bunched up below the pink. So, one of them is on the cushion next to the yellow pocket. And all the other ones are bunched up quite closely to each other. Next, well, in between, I would say, the left corner and the left middle pocket. But one of the reds that was quite close to the bulk colors there, I think Williams took a chance there to leave Selby on here potentially. And the question is, can Selby see enough of that red? Try and force it into the middle. The answer is yes, he can. And now Selby with the first chance here, getting the better of Williams in this early safety battle. And yeah, let's see what this can bring to the table. What can Mark Selby do from this position? As I say, it's not the best one, but it's certainly the one that you would expect him to get a couple of points from. You know, with a couple of easy reds, the blue being really close to its spot, being tied up to the reds. And once again, rolling through the cue ball there onto the black. It's got a nice little angle to finish up on the red that is closest to the right cushion there. And I think that will be the target for Selby. Very much taking his time here, and if I actually managed to produce too much angle to my liking, I would say. Ended up with slightly more acute angle than you would have liked. But still, should be manageable. May have to use the cushion to land on the black perfectly. Now decides against that, so just use a little bit of backspin, a little bit of screw back, and landing nicely on the black there. Once again, the black, and potentially a chance to go into the bunch. I think Selby will choose against that and just roll up to one of the reds he's got available to the middle. He does exactly that. Develops one of them as well, so frees up a little bit more room for himself to try and target this section of the area. And once again, the red is nicely in the pocket, so 21 points scored already for Selby. With this position, you would expect him to make it a 50 plus break at least. And then anything on top of that will require the positional modification in terms of just developing that pack in below the pink and trying to get maximum points that he can at this point of the frame Selby. Of course, the first frame is always going to be crucial and could very much be the defining moment in who's going to get the momentum earlier on here. As when the two heavyweights like that clash, it's always going to be tight. And it's always going to be interesting to see who's going to come out on top here. So Selby now once again landing nicely on the black here. Will try and get himself onto the middle shot potentially. Once again going into the right middle pocket. Nicely done. And 36 points is the break for Selby already. And looking to make that 37 and potentially 42 with the next blue, as I think that will be the color that Selby will be aiming for. And indeed it is. So 37 points scored. Will be 42 with the blue. Potentially once again a chance for Selby to try and develop a bunch of the reds. And this time he's gone for it. And it worked out pretty nicely for him there. The downside is, of course, the factor that cue balls landed pretty much dead on the cushion here. It still has got an option to the right middle with an attempt of adding a little bit more of topspin than he would like. Potentially just looking if he's got a plant option there. He's going to check every single chance before he takes that risk, because at this point of the frame, he can't afford any errors, with the position now being a lot wider and a lot more open than he was a couple of shots ago. So the red is in by Selby, but the cue ball has let him down there. And it seems like you either have to be a really difficult green or probably a safety shot that you wouldn't normally expect from Selby to play from this position. Where to watch live match, Rajat? So you've got a couple of options, depends on your region really, but you've got the WST app on snooker, on the snooker website. You can check the broadcasting channels for your location, and if you're watching in the UK, you can do it in TNT Sports 1 or Discovery Plus, depends on which channel you want to watch there. But Selby does indeed go for a safety shot, pushes the green onto the cushion there. So once again, Williams is going to try and get himself into a safety battle with Selby. And that time around, it was the Englishman that came out on top. Okay, thank you. No worries. Anytime, my friend. And Selby this time, once again, just switches the cushions there from one reds to the other, making sure that it's got some sort of buffering there. Can you leave a link in the live chat? I'm pretty sure if you just log into your browser, into the TNT Sports or WST, you should be able to find it. Maybe I'll do that in the break in between, to be fair. Just to save you a little bit of time. But Selby once again here, after a decent shot from Williams, has got a couple of options to his name. I think the main one being the cross double that he will attempt here. And yeah, this time nicely done once again. Switches the cushions there between the reds. And leaves Williams with just the right part of the red balls to work with, covering up pretty much majority of them, all of them in the left-hand side of the table. Once again, Williams with a nice little trajectory there, but seems to be a little bit short of pace there, leaving Selby with too much room to find himself with a potential long pot here as well. Not even talking about finding a good safety at this point. So remember, Selby with 43 points ahead, still 91 on the table. So still very much anyone's frame for the taking, but you do feel like should Selby take the next chance of his, he will be him as the biggest favorite of all. Once again, the cue ball lands on the cushion there, and Williams is going to try and respond with a safety of his own, as he acknowledges that from Williams that the shot prior to that was really good. And now Williams has to find a shot that's going to be good enough for him to respond to it. Once again, goes in between the yellow, doesn't seem to be happy with the trajectory, as he was afraid to be leaving that red ball quite close to the corner pocket, and with his facial expression, you would feel like that's exactly what he's done there. Selby now will have an option to his name, or potentially try and refuse the pot, or go for it and trying to close off the frame in spectacular fashion here. Goes for the safety instead, so cue ball very much back against the ball carrier. I think Williams will be relieved Now, he's probably just about done enough there to force a safety shot from Selby rather than an attempt of a pot there. And yeah, so Williams taking his time once again here and finding a decent trajectory. Once again, development of the black ball wasn't significant. Lands in behind the yellow this time nicely and only leaves Selby with 2 or 3 reds to work with. Depends on how much you can see of each of those. But once again, a good safety battles here going on. Not so much of sort of free-flowing snooker and break building so far, but I think that is going to be something that is yet to come. Selby once again with a nice line there, but catches the yellow in the way he probably didn't want to. Williams will now have a little bit of awkward position as he will have to bridge over the yellow. Unless he goes for one of the reds on the right cushion area there. So once again, 43 points in favor of Selby, 0 for Williams. And that green and the red on both side cushions is not going to be something that you would want to see too much of. I think he'll have to try and develop that in the upcoming shots. But what a shot he's played there, Mark Williams. Brilliant shot there. Nicely on the blue. And found it of absolutely nothing. He knew he was going to leave a potential shot there for Selby. He said, I'm going to trust in my skills and I'm going to trust in my long pot skills as well. And what a shot that was. Brilliant attempt there from Williams. Now has got a straight blue here, so I would expect him to hold back the cue ball slightly and then use the rest to eliminate one of the reds quite close to the left corner pocket there. Now once again, Williams with prime chance here to get himself back in the frame. Has got an option of either pink or black to land on. Has landed pretty much on neither of them, as he overplayed for the black slightly and now has an awkward shot on the pink. So might just have to take his time with this one, to be fair, because it's not an easy shot from Williams to play here. You can see he just has another angle of course he has to generate quite a lot of power on this shot if he's to use the cushion and get onto the right side of the red there. So far been able to do that nicely, and once again, so he decides not to use the cushion and go for a screw back. Always was going to leave himself with a tough angle with that shot, but has done well there, Williams. And now has got another red shot to try and get himself back in the prime position. But the touch on the black wasn't really too kind to him. You'll have to see just what the angle is on the pink. I think you might be alright with that. And a little bit of screw back, potentially, onto the red. I'll just try and see if it's easier to go for the black here from this position, and might go for it this time, as you know, he did ask the referee to put the reds down a couple of seconds ago, but now takes it back on the table. So obviously realizing that the pink is not in the best position possible for Williams, and that Selby has to do all the damage himself here with his next safety shots. But for now, it's Williams at the table and trying to get some points on the board here. Still very much 5 out of 5 reds, and still 2 or 3 of them are in decent positions, and the last 2 very much still need some positional adjustment. For now though, Williams has to focus on the black and getting the next position on the red, as he's done both of those things he had to. Lines up on the red nicely into the left middle. So now 22 points behind, with the red into the left middle, looking to make that 21 points behind. Of course, it will be interesting to see which colour he lands on, but should have focused a little bit more on the pot there, Williams, as he's missed it entirely. And it's now position given back to Mark Selby here. Now, well, for Selby, it's a lot different circumstances because remember, he only needs a couple of more reds here, Selby, as he's already 22 points clear. With 59 on the table, should this red disappear, as indeed it does. So once again, a start of the break here for Selby. And 44 points on the board. Was got either blue or pink to try and play for the next red, but it's going to be really straight on the pink, so we'll have to go for the tougher shot on the blue here and try and get the cue ball into that area of the reds. And I think he's gone right in between all of them. And yeah, it does seem like this frame will go on for a little bit longer here. Selby is unable to capitalize on the second chance that was presented to him by Williams quite cheaply. And unless he goes for an aggressive shot into the middle, I would expect this to be a safety battle resumed, as once again it is. So we with a slight advantage now with 28 points, 59 still on the table. Remember, at least two of those reds are in quite bad condition and position in terms of the table. As Williams there decides to attempt a cross double. Cue ball positioning was really nice there, so no price paid. But another concern for Williams will be the green positioning, being tied up to the right cushion there. Once again, Selby decides to go for a really nice thin cut there on the red. And get the cue ball into the safe area. I think Williams has got two options here. Either roll up to that red that is lowest of them all in terms of table positioning, or go for a cross double attempt and get the cue ball once again down to the bulk area. As he goes for the second option there, hasn't worked out for him as nicely, simply because of yellow going onto the cushion and one of the reds took into the cushion as well. So more and more I'm seeing chances here for just Selby to get himself with a chance. He'll be really keen to finish off this frame, as Williams does seem to have an absolute major hill to climb here, as Selby does indeed go for this lump pot attempt. Doesn't leave Williams with anything here. He knew he was going to be playing for the black there, so there was a high chance that that red on the bottom cushion wasn't going to be shown to him. As now Williams needs to have a look at what he's going to play next. Once again, he's got probably a cross double attempt and get the cue ball onto the bulk cushion area there. But has to be mindful of that red that is sitting quite next to the brown. He already left a similar shot like that into the middle. Doesn't want to be doing that again. And potentially eyeing up a shot off the cushion there into the red. So just seeing what is the best possible thing that you can do here, Mark Williams. And from my perspective, I would say just the second highest red on the table, so quite close to the blue line there. I think you'll have to just use that one and get the cue ball quite close to the yellow. So he decides to go for a cross double, and a double, I should say, not cross double, just a double there into the green pocket, and land the cue ball in a safe area, tied up to the red. So acknowledgement from safety once again is a sign that he's played that one really well. And now Selby himself has to find a decent safety shot. This time he hasn't really managed to do that, and he's left Williams with a chance here. So unnecessary error there from Selby. And it's a chance for Williams to get some points on the board here. As you would expect it, Selby to be putting the pressure on Williams, especially from the previous shot, but turned out to be the other way around here. And it's Williams that has a chance number 2 here to have a decent break, or only managed to get 21 points out of the previous one. And straight away he hasn't landed perfectly on either of the colors, so may have to take the blue on here, being 27 points. down, he can still take some of the low value colors and not really be worried about the points so far, as the red is in, but once again leaves himself with either a safety shot or a really hard red to play into the right middle pocket there. There you go, you can see there him helping out the referee nicely. Getting the brown on his spot himself. And now we'll have to see if that red is potable into the middle, and if it isn't, you'll have to do something about it and come up with a different solution there. I think he will take it on. He has took it on, and he's also missed it. And he's probably left it on here for Selby. So just a break of 5 here. And yeah, of course, all these points accumulation from Williams and him not playing with maximum points leaves Selby with a little bit more room to finish off the frame faster and easier. As the red goes in there from Selby, so a really nice spot there. 24 points ahead now. Needs a color, red, and another color for Williams to be needing snooker, something that is very much manageable. Should we get on the next red, which is quite close to the yellow and the ball cushion area there. So the pink is nicely in. Let's see how this cue ball positioning is going to be. It's not going to be great there. Probably just a safety once again here for Selby. Being 30 points clear with 43 on the table. I think he'll try and find Williams snooker here in the next shot, but let's see if anything is available to do for Selby here. As he decides just to put the yellow in between the target ball there and probably force Williams to be playing some sort of cross double from a red that is closer to the bottom part of the table. So goes head on for that one and pushes it towards the green pocket. Cue ball position was elite there from Williams. And so was the red ball positioning. So a brilliant shot there from Mark Williams. Now Selby has to find all the answers to it. Tyler says, hoping Williams wins. Probably do I, because that will probably mean that you were playing in an aggressive style. And, you always want to be seeing a little bit more of that in snooker, especially a little bit more of break building, a little bit more of free-flowing stuff. And you're not really going to see that if Selby's going to win this match. So I am very much hoping for a great match in the first and foremost, and then of course for Williams and Selby to produce a good high quality snooker here. For now, an attempt and a mistake from a safety shot here from Selby, and it's Williams that will have a chance himself, as now he's got a potential pot into the green pocket. He takes it. He also takes the red out of the cushion area there. Let's see where the cue ball is going to end up. It's going to end up quite nicely with the red finishing quite close to the blue line there. So all of a sudden, it's only the green that seems to be an issue here for Williams to be getting himself back ahead here. Hello, Gresha. Nice to see you here in the chat already. So 5 points here for Williams, making that 6 on the break, and a red here to come up with it. 33 points scored, 23 behind, was still enough on the table there. Now has got a choice of either brown or blue to get himself nicely on the yellow. We'll see what he can do from here. I think he's just going to have to roll through the blue here and leave a little bit of distance between the cue ball and the yellow ball there. So there's exactly that. So 38 points on the board for him with 27 on the table. We'll need all of 6 colors, and the most important for him and the toughest of all is going to, of course, be the transition from the yellow to the green. He decides to just leave himself with a safety shot. I don't think there's a double on. So surprised to see that from Williams. As I said, I think the green is very much tied up to the cushion, so I'm not sure if the double is going to be available. But yeah, should Williams miss it, the green won't be frame ball for Selby in itself, but the brown will be. So the last thing that he wants to be doing now after doing all the hard work in this frame. So once again, just a safety and a really good safety there. An acknowledgement from safety from Selby once again. As the break has ended for Williams, but he's ended it with a really nice safety shot, and probably 2 cushion escape there for Selby will be reasonable. And now we'll see if that's going to be the case, or he's just going to try 1 cushion escape. No, he does go for 2 cushion escape there. Judge the power probably to perfection. I don't think he's going to leave a free ball here. So the referee will check that. I think he's probably just about all right. There's just 4 points given to Williams, so the referee is having a look at it. And you'll get a red just to double check here, because of course, should that be a free ball, should be a frame over here. But I think Selby would have had that in mind. And I think Williams there just checking and saying, there's no way it's a free ball. You can see that green in entirety. So I think he'll just be put back there, Selby. There you go, just referee just confirming with Williams. I think you can check, yeah, I think he says you could check there, but you can check all you like. It's not going to be a free ball, says Williams to the referee. And Mark Williams will stay in his seat, and Mark Selby will be put back exactly where the cue ball was and try and get his escape right this time around. Once again, I think he'll go for a 2 cushion option and just try get a little bit closer to the green, so a little bit more angle to take in on the first cushion. Maybe a little bit less space this time around to avoid being so close to giving away a free ball. Once again, a nice line this time, but caught it a lot firmer into the head, but in the end, probably all planned by Selby, as he seems to be the expert of those types of shots. Williams is now back on the safety hunt with a straightforward one to start himself off, but the green ball seems to be going well too close to the corner pocket there. And yeah, all of a sudden, a really good shot there from Williams, and you know, a safety shot that was decent, but in the end got himself really, really lucky and in a position to win this frame. And have a look at this then. He's got the brown as well. I didn't expect him to go for this brown from that position. And let's see what Williams can do from here. 56 points also. Just needs the last 2 colors, the pink and the black, to have an absolute steal of a first frame. You know, it looked like for all the time Selby had Williams on the ropes and in a really tough position, but it looks like it will be Mark Williams, and it is, to take the opening frame. We're going to have, we've got some technical issues here to deal with, so I'll be back with you in a couple of moments. But for now, Williams take the opening frame. And yeah, just a little break here, and we'll be back in a couple of moments' time. So all resolved there. So thank God it wasn't as severe as I thought in the first place. So no more problems, and we're perfectly back for the start of the second frame, with Williams having a really good break-off. And now Selby finds himself a frame behind here from the position that really he thought like he was going to take that opening frame. All of a sudden, he's the one playing catch-up here, and to straight away that safety shot from Selby is an absolute nightmare, as he catches that red way too thin and leaves Williams with a potential chance earlier on here. So let's see what that's going to bring in. Once again, Williams nicely with the opening there, so takes his chance. And it's an absolute gift here so far from Selby earlier on in the second frame. You know, we'll see what and just how many points Williams can get out of it. But it doesn't seem to be going too well in the recent couple of minutes for Selby. Of course, was leading and dominating the first frame. Looked like he had all control of the table. But Williams in the end just forcing him into errors. And in the end being the one to pounce on and win the opening frame with the highest break of 25 so far. So certainly a stat that he will be looking to improve. And I think he's more than capable of doing that in the second frame here. He's got a decent chance ahead of him here. Position is far from ideal, but still should do better than he did there. I was gonna wait there for him to land on the black, but he didn't really, and now he's got a really tough cut here. He managed it, but where's the cue ball going to end up? And certainly not going to end up on the reds there. So just 11 points. Once again, that break building of Williams not going as well as it could have been. And you'll be just under the safety here from Mark Williams, I should say. We have two Marks playing in this current match. One being from England and being the world number 9, and one being from Wales and being the world number 5 after winning, and not winning, sorry, becoming the finalist of last year's World Championship, where of course he lost in a great battle in the end to Zhao Xingdong. Selby now finds a decent safety to put Williams quite close to the yellow pocket. Once again finds himself with an angle, but probably favours him at this point in time. Let's allow him to go into the bunch a little bit harder, as long as he can generate the pace on that cue ball, which he can't really, and leaves Selby a little bit tighter and a little bit awkward there, with the yellow to potentially try and breach over of. Baby Cole Bennett says, can Selby win this? In terms of the frame or the match, the frame still very much anyone's up for grabs, and so is probably the match. We'll see. We'll see. I still think it's earlier on, and we haven't seen any sort of brilliance from either of the player. I think the majority of the match has been played through safety shots. And yeah, so this time it's Williams that has to come up with one of his own. You know, the fact that Selby has got a break of 43 is the highest, and Williams has got a break of 25 as his highest on the opening frame. So it probably says it all, with it lasting nearly half an hour, almost more than half an hour, I should say. And Williams here doesn't seem to find an easy safety shot, so the blue seems to cover all the reds on the right hand side, and yeah, the ones that you can see on the left hand side, going to be hard for him to get through the remaining reds. So once again decides to go through the right hand side of his, and it was always going to be risky, and I did say he was struggling to find the line there. Didn't find it in the end. So a good shot from Selby, I would say, because, you know, to force Williams to be in that sort of position and unable to find the trajectory for the safety shot does the punishment in the end. But the problem for Selby is he hasn't really got an easy chance here, if any at all. Probably got one red into the yellow pocket, but the angle not being favourable for him. May have to once again just go into another safety battle with a safety shot here, Selby. And he seems to be lining one up here and looking for a potential escape route. Nicely done there. There's the cue ball. Is going to now go in behind the green. Would have liked not to show any of the reds there, just to force Williams into a bit of pressure. Instead, he's now left a potential long pot here, as that's the only red Williams could see, but that's probably one of the only reds he could actually try and go and pot here. And look what a pot this is. He got that one beautifully there. Struck to absolute perfection there from Williams. And now has got another chance here after only managing 11 points from the previous break. So the position is a lot more promising this time around. Once again, the black is still on the cushion. The pink is covered up by the reds, but has blue to his name for now. And then if he's going to be playing on the bottom side of the table, he could bring both pink and black in the equation in a couple of shots' time. For now, you'll have a couple to play around the blue, with already 23 points lined up if this blue goes in, which you should. And then a couple of more reds will give him even more of a gap. Once again, decides to switch the run of play here and play for the bottom side of the table. Clearly, a thing in mind for Williams here is to bring the black into play and allow himself in with a chance here earlier on to be in the prime position. Needs this black to go in though, because it's not right on the cushion there, but it's quite close to it. The good thing for Williams is he's quite close with the cue ball to this black. Just has to be careful with the next landing on the red. And he's just about right there. So once again, little look on Williams's face, understanding that should have cue ball gone 2-3 centimeters more, it would have had to play a safety. Instead, he's still in this. A little bit awkward here on the black. So we're going to go into the reds. Needs to make sure he stuns the cue ball nicely and catches one full ball to end up on the red itself. And he hasn't done that. So he's got one sideways there, and which ricocheted the white out of the equation. And hasn't got anything here apart from, you know, maybe a cut into the middle, a left middle, which I think is the shot he's looking for. It's always going to be difficult, but he was always going to be close there from Williams, and in the end he gets the red ball in this time. So 40 points scored. Once again has got a little bit of a bad angle on the black, so once again has to do the damage to himself, and once again he just does the same shot there that he did 2 shots earlier, that he managed to land on the red, at least one of the reds into the middle, but this time he's got an incredibly tough cut into the corner pocket, and he just seems to be on the edge here. So indeed, beg your pardon there, I thought that was the only shot he had. He indeed had one more shot into the right pocket, so which is why probably wasn't showing too much of emotion. So it was alright there in the end, and he's just a couple of shots away here from clinching the second frame as well and getting himself a 2-0 lead here. Still not over the line quite yet, with 54 points scored, 75 on the table. So we'll need at least a red, one more red and one more color after this black. With it being 61 ahead, the red will put him 62 ahead. But needs to find the red first. Hasn't landed perfectly on one once again. So the cue ball control of Williams does seem to be letting him down a little bit. And this time, has he paid the price? No, he hasn't. Looked like the red ball was going to stay up there, but drops in the end. So 62 points because it's going to be a cheap color. You'll still need one more red after this, so he's just looking for which one he can potentially try and get on to maximize his chances of getting the position spot on. He's got either the blue or green here. I think he will play green being the easier of the two, and probably having a more favorable angle in terms of what Williams would like. Onto the next red. This time does it nicely, I think. If the red that I think he was aiming for does go through. So sort of facial expression once again from Williams does seem to be a signal that it doesn't really. So you'll have to go for the tougher of the two. But once again, something that he has been able to do throughout this frame and throughout this break is recover from mistakes that he's put himself under. But this once again continues the break. The break is now 59, and this frame is surely now done and dusted here if you're Mark Williams. And he's going to find himself leading by 2 frames to nil. As he goes for a double shot there in the end, nearly putting 2 reds into completely different pockets, the left and right corner ones. So still on the break here, but only for a matter of seconds there as the black is missed. So the highest break here for Williams being the break of 60 puts an end to the frame, and Mark Williams now gets himself with a 2-0 lead here. Williams is feisty. Yeah, I'd say Selby's looking a bit rusty at this round 3. Last 16 here. But still should have done better on the first frame. Certainly Selby with the lead he's had. Didn't have too many chances in the second frame, but still credit to Williams there, as we've got 3 more matches going alongside us. And Stan Moody, I mean, if you think that Mark Williams has been off to a great start, Stan Moody has managed to win 3 frames against Barry Hawkins already. I mean, I just want to see what the breaks were. With the breaks of 41, 38 and 108. So an absolute, blitzkrieg there from Stan Moody. And he's on a break himself right now already. So what a start this has been for the player that has actually been the first one in 18 months to break the Ding Junhui curse. Ever since the Welsh Open in 2024, every single player that has beaten Ding Junhui has lost in the next round. Stan Moody being the only one that hasn't, after beating Dean in round 1 of the Wuhan Open. Has managed to beat Li Pei Fan, of course, yesterday, and now he's looking. Not Li Pei Fan. That was Aaron Hill. He managed to beat Zhou Yulong yesterday, and he's now facing Barry Hawkins, and has got a healthy lead of 3 frames to nil earlier on. In terms of the other matches, Zhang Anda is leading Aaron Hill by 2 frames to 1. The winner of that pair will, of course, place the winner of Mark Williams against Mark Selby. And the last of the 4 last 16 matches that are being played right now is Zhao Guodong against Matthew Selt, the Chinese player leading by 2 frames to nil, and on a break of 26 already here. So looking very nicely there for the top seeds. Zhang Anda, Zhao Guodong, Mark Williams, and Stan Moody being the only one that seems to be beating quite comfortably the top seed there in terms of Barry Hawkins, as he leads by 2 frames to nil, and now has a potential long pot into the green pocket, as you can see on the TNT channel, and makes it really, really nicely there as Selby's ready to break off for frame number 3 here. Moody's all of a sudden once again on the break there. So you can watch that match on Discovery Plus if you're in the UK. Selby with a brilliant break off though. Has Williams on the cushion once again. The surprising thing about this match though is it has been played in a fashion that Selby very much likes. In the safe manner, in the safety manner. But then Williams is just able to produce those pure moments of magic as he did this time around. Once again with a brilliant long pot down the cushion. Lands on the block nicely there. And the black is in, and all of a sudden, after what looked like a really good break off from Mark Selby, It is Williams now with a prime chance to get himself once again with a nice cushion here. And yeah, the problem for Selby is you don't really know what to look at, because it's not like he's been playing absolutely horribly. You know, probably had that couple of mistakes in the first frame, hasn't really had any in the second frame, and now he just played a brilliant break-off shot, left Williams there on the cushion, but his Welsh opponent once again has found a moment of brilliance of himself. As the second colour goes in, it being the blue, Williams once again on the red comfortably. There's got 4 more, I would say, of the reds available to his name, until you'll have to get into the pack in one way, shape or form. But for now, of course, has to focus on the obstacles that are in front of him. The first one being landing on the blue with the right angle, and the mission has been failed there from Williams. Not that many frames before you know you're 4 frames behind. Yeah, exactly. With the 15-minute break coming after the 4 frames, I think Selby has to be careful he doesn't end up with 4-0 lead. So 4 frames behind Williams there, as Williams does about damage limitation there on the blue. And has a decent shot to try and develop the reds, but the cue ball contact hasn't been kind to him. And only has the yellow here into the middle. Potentially will be able to take it on, but the problem will be to find the next red here. So does indeed take it on. And does leave himself on with a difficult red mid-range shot, the angle being against Williams into the right corner pocket there. So difficult shot this is, an important one. And he's missed it, and he's left himself on. A chance for Selby, indeed a chance for Selby here. So no real reason for Williams to be taking the risk with that shot, but I suppose when you're 2 frames ahead, you can afford that. And yeah, Selby will now get himself with a chance as he gets the red in. So nicely on the black here. Hasn't really got too many reds to play for. I think he's only got 1, if any. So I would expect him to go into the reds from this black currently. So next shot is going to be key here for Selby for the development of the play. So decides just to brush off the reds, and not too sure what the intention was there. But seems like a massive waste here for Mark Selby. And yeah, it does seem like that chance that Williams is absolutely gifted to him is only going to resolve with 8 points scored here. Unless he can't see something of a plan there that he can find. But with the way he's looking at these bunch, I think he's just looking for a safety shot here. So yeah, as I say, not being able to get himself up to a pace here so far, Selby. Finds a decent safety shot, but nowhere near good enough from the chance he was presenting himself with. So Williams once again back to the table. Develops the pink nicely there, so all 6 colours being very much in play here. It's once again a really nice shot here from Williams. You know, Selby was the one that had a free safety shot, but it's Williams that comes on top of this safety battle for now. Selby needs to find an answer of his own. I think he'll have to just roll up to the reds from 2 cushions there. That's exactly what he does. Needs to be careful here. This doesn't leave one to the yellow pocket. And once again, exactly what he's done there. You can just see from the trajectory of that cue ball that it was always going to just skin off that red and land Williams with a chance. The chance that he certainly takes. You would see him. I mean, I have to say, I was judging from his position, from his body language. You know, he was very much going towards the blue, but he missed that shot. So gone too early there, and I think he was surprised himself there. I have to say he was very much stopping towards playing for the blue, but in the end just the red ball has stayed out and has stayed out really nicely for Selby. Once again, had a free shot there, safety, but doesn't seem to land on the colour perfectly here. As he'll have a choice now of either the blue or potentially brown. I don't think he'll take the green into the equation because he's been so straight on it. So does indeed go for the green. So it'll be really interesting to see what red he's going up for. And well, he clearly has found something. Maybe a plant here for Selby, but he did turn down the chance of going into the pack. And maybe that highest red of them all is just possible. Yes, it is. So better angle here on the broadcast. And Selby's here with a chance. I wouldn't say it's a frame winning chance. Once again, the position is far from ideal for Selby. It needs to work hard to make it anywhere near that. For now, goes into the reds heavily. Has he got any sort of luck? Well, he's got one to the middle. I'm not sure if he's going to take it on. You know, the angle probably is in favor of the cue ball, as you can hold the cue ball for the black here. Just all about getting that pot in. You'll check another angle here and just see if he leaves the cue ball there, does he not risk anything at all there? Because the black ball, it would seem, would cover up the chance of Williams going for the attacking shot in the corner pocket. And indeed, so the red ball goes into the middle, and Selby this time with a much better chance after that development of the position from the blue. Now in and around the black spot nicely. Once again goes into the reds to try and capitalize on the chance that he's had. And not too sure if he's ended up on one there. Not sure if he was too eager to land on the red there. And yeah, with the way he's looking at this plant, he's certainly overrun it there. And I think he will attempt this plant with a safety in mind, sending the cue ball back towards the cushion area with a lot of distance between the two target reds. So, been a couple of chances for Selby, not just in this frame, but in the match in general. So far hasn't been able to take any of them to an extent that would win him any of the frames. So after all the missed chances from Williams, he's still very much with a chance here in this frame, but Selby has one more chance to stay in his break with a brilliant plant. And once again, you have to applaud Selby there. He was playing for a really good safety shot, so I don't think he was playing for a colour there, but with all the distance that was in between the reds, it was a really hard shot to pull off. It's not going to give him a lot more than just a nice little snooker on the green here, though. And the break ends with 19 points here for Selby. A chance here for Williams to get himself back in this frame. He's got a couple of options to try and roll up to. Decides to go for the easiest of the two, of them all. But misjudges the pace there. So we'll have to be put back there as 4 points go the way of Mark Selby. So with 75, I should say, points on the board, still that 8 points difference is not going to make a massive difference as of yet. I think it's always going to be really key here to see which player is going to get on the nice position next time of asking. And for now, though, Williams has a 10 number 2, and he seems to know as soon as he hit that one that it was going to be even further away. And another 4 points go the way of Selby. And once again, Williams will be asked to put back into the same position and try and generate a little bit more angle here, as I think Williams just sees how heavily he can play this one, as he doesn't want to be throwing points around too much here, as he is the one behind. Will leave himself in a worse position than he already is. This time he's got better, but I still think he'll come up short of pace. The referee's covered it up, but I think he hasn't managed to get there in the end. So once again, 4 points for Selby here. So 12 in total from this snooker that he's managed to lay after finding a good plan there. So 16 points is the gap between Williams and Selby in favor of the second. And for the fourth time of asking, Williams finally gets the contact that he needs with the red. Took a while, but he's got there. Now the question is for me, does Selby have a chance into this green pocket to try and get himself on the black? Maybe actually lining up a cut into the corner pocket here with the safety in mind. Catches the red there, and the cue ball was always going to be out of control, and I would say unlucky, but also misjudgment there from Selby. Should have been nowhere near catching that red ball on the cushion. As 4 points now go the way of Mark Williams, with now 67 points on the table. Once again, a brilliant long pot there from Williams. Is he going to be rewarded for it? I don't think he is. I think he found himself really unlucky there. 28 points with 59 points on the table. Yeah, I would say really unlucky there from Williams, because it was a brilliant long pot, but I think it's going to cost him only 1 point here. And it's not going to make a massive difference to Selby's deficit, as Williams just decides to go for a shot on the yellow there. I think the double kiss on the yellow being in favour of Williams. And now Selby comes back to the table. Oof, yeah, it was filthy that. The pot from Williams, but in the end hasn't given him too much to deal with. Selby this time has got a safety to try and find, as he hasn't got too many reds to try and aim at. Probably just the one right above the black there, in line with him. But the problem with that shot is he's going to be pushing the other reds towards the pocket. Doesn't want to be catching this too thin either, because of the angle that will put on the cue ball. So we'll take his time here, Selby, as this is an important shot, and it's a really important frame, this, especially for Selby. Certainly the one that, in my view, you can't afford to lose. You know, when you're 3-0 down to Mark Williams. And yeah, Selby seems to be an absolute mess so far, as he leaves a red onto the ball carrier, and the cue ball goes in off. So once again, 4 points to Williams. And chance here for Mark Williams, I should say. Keep calling both players by the first name, with all of them sharing one. So Williams here with only 7 points behind. Still 59 on the table. Stupid mistake by Selby. Yeah, surprised to see that, to be honest with you. I think I couldn't really see something straightforward there for Williams, but I still would have expected him to do a lot better than he actually did. So 51 points left on the table now, but talk about stupid mistakes. If you're Williams, you have to be absolutely kicking yourself with the chances that Selby has presented him with. And he's got himself into trouble here once again, and looks like just another safety here. So an exchange there from mistakes. And still, anyone's rank for the take in this. As Williams is rolling up to the yellow. He's going to run out of pace there, cue ball. Just going to end up just above that line of the ball carrier. And Selby here with a 1 point advantage has put himself ahead here, and will be very lucky man, Mark Selby, as once again it looks like he just wants to give points away to Williams. I mean, remember, the last 2 points of Selby would have been fouls, and he nearly made the third one in a row, with Blackball being really close to the pocket. And Williams, I mean, it's just a catalogue of errors here so far, because Williams has missed the ball in its entirety. 4 points to Selby here. And I think he'll be either taking this position or putting Williams back exactly where he was. He decides to take this position as he's caught the cue ball quite close to the Reds there. So I'm not necessarily liking the way this is going to go, because with the black covering up the right corner pocket, I think this frame could be in here for a while. Both players, I think, will be rolling up to that pocket in terms of the Reds. And we'll create a crowding there. And with no one really having too many points advantage here. Too much points of an advantage, I should say. It should be a pretty lengthy battle until we see the next pot of the ball here, as Selby once again continues the tendency. And yeah, that crowd that is now appearing close to the black ball seems to be formed up of 3 Reds already, as Williams is the latest man to do that. Finds a really good shot, I would say, especially if the brown comes in the way. I don't think it did though, so Selby under not too much pressure. And now probably will use the cushion just underneath the black to try and just roll up to these Reds. He's brought one out of the equation, probably to some extent. I think Williams will try and be using the yellow as a blocking point for the cue ball. That's exactly what he's done. He's going to find his target. It's not just about, so just short of pace there from Williams. Was a chance, but the chance not taken. And Selby once again hasn't got a decent and hasn't got an easy safety here, but once again, not too much pressure there for him. So he'll now explore all of his chances and all of his options that he's got here. Taking his time on this shot, and oh, he's gone for a really thin one. And yeah, we got really lucky that the cue ball hasn't landed into that green pocket. And I'll be curious to see what Williams is going to do in this position, I will have to say, because one of the Reds is tied up to the black now. I think he probably can play off that one actually, because the black has got the angle of not finishing up in the pocket. That's exactly what he's done, but I am surprised with the thickness of the red, and the part of the red that he's actually took there a chunk of Williams. And yeah, it was really difficult for him to control the cue ball to an extent that he would have liked. Didn't leave Selby on with anything easy, so just another safety here. And the safety that finds Williams in an awkward position, lined up in behind the yellow. Once again, just rolling up to one of the Reds he's got and putting it safely on the cushion. Smart shot. And not a lot of things that could have gone wrong there. I think Selby will try and do exactly the same thing, putting the cue ball back towards the yellow ball area. But once again, just a little bit short of pace there, as was a shot from Williams a couple of turns ago. Still only 5 points in this, in favour of Mark Selby. Williams here finds a decent safety shot, but needs to make sure that red is not visible for Selby to attack, and I'm not sure he actually done that. It might be Selby in here with a chance of a long pot. The difficulty here is, of course, the angle that he's got on it, or sort of no angle that he's got on it. And with the cue ball being tied up on the cushion, it's only the topspin you could add into this. Let's see what this is going to end up with. Yeah, so I was going to say that it was always going to be difficult to control the cue ball, and I think Selby, to an extent, will probably take that. I know it's 4 points to his opponent, but let's be honest, he was never getting on the colour from that, and all he had to do was to eliminate that pot to not give Williams any advantage there. So I think we're back to square one here. There's once again a lot of fouls in this match and in this frame, especially, that's for sure. And not a lot of free-flowing break building. Once again, the break of Williams in the previous frame being the highest of them all, of 60. How many cue balls spotted by now? I counted at least 6. I'm not sure if in this frame alone, yeah, that's what I'm saying. In this frame alone, I've counted 6. I'm not sure if there's been any more. Which, of course, 6 is the amount of cue balls spotted. You know, you take away all the foul points that Williams has given to Selby of, you know, just not rolling up to the cue ball. Good shot there from Selby. And Williams now has to find the thinnest of the edges there of the reds. I don't think Selby was planning for Williams to see that. As Williams here finally decides to develop the reds heavily here. And, well, an interesting shot here Selby's facing right now, because he's got a red covering over the pocket. But to get to that red, he needs to get through another red and a black. So could he be playing this one off the cushion here? Or is he going to go for the plant of 3 here? He's gone for the cushion shot. And he's only just about missed it. So the reds have all gone safe with the black in the way. So Williams once again back to the table. And with a chance here to get himself with a safety shot in front. But seems to settle for, you know, sort of giving initiative back to Selby here. As I think the Englishman will be rolling up the cue ball once again towards the brown, yellow color area. And once again, so this time it lands on top of the yellow there. So it would be awkward for Williams to be cueing this one. But also it'd be really important for Williams to avoid any sort of errors. As I say, with the way Selby has been playing, the only way this game is sort of develop and go up from is up. So I wouldn't get complacent if I was Williams. Don't take this frame for granted. Try and get it over the line here. He's gone for the attempt of a shot there. Cue ball has landed nicely on the black ball cushion there. So once again, no real aim to find himself on the color, just a safety shot from Williams, and a safety shot that you would think Selby will respond here with. Rolling up to another red there, sending the cue ball back towards the cushion of the baulk line. Nicely done. Turn for Williams to do something like that. With the angle he's got here, I wouldn't be too surprised if he just decides to roll this red towards the pocket. So he decides to go for pretty much identical shot to the one he's played previously. And Selby, I think, will respond to the similar shot to the one he's played on the previous shot. So a little bit of back and forward here from both players. And Selby's turn. I think Selby's point of view is the longer I stay in this zone, the more likely I am to force Williams into an error, because he seems to be the more impatient of the two. And with leading by 2 frames to nil, he is also more likely to be the one that goes for a pot that isn't really there and gives Selby with another chance. But now it's a cross double here from Williams. Interesting to see where this cue ball is going. And in the end, just touching the yellow right in the head there. Landing really close to the yellow pocket. And leaving Selby on with a chance of a long pot, with the safety in mind. And a brilliant long pot it was. So Selby certainly was lined up 1-up. And now has got a yellow to his name. But potentially, I think he will be tempted just to go for a snooker, as going to be difficult for him to land on this next red, so a little bit of development I think we'll see here. Selby does seem to be going for this yellow, so an attacking shot here from Selby is not something that you expect to see from him. Nice bot there, brilliant bot from Selby. And needs this yellow, and I will have to say the next two shots could be really key, not just in this frame but in this match. And Selby's gone for the cannon on the red and missed it, and has actually managed to probably snooker himself. So yeah, he got the yellow in, but hasn't got any further than that. This time it'll be just a safety shot of one shape or form. Not sure if you can catch the edge there of the red. And you just send the cue ball once again down the bulk area. So once again, time taken. And a decent idea there to land the cue ball and the red ball and have blue and pink in between them, with also the cue ball sitting on the cushion, but the execution wasn't quite there. Now all of a sudden it's Williams with a chance for the pot. Not sure he was even attempting that, probably just gone for the safety shot, but can't say he's done too well on that shot either, because I'm pretty sure if that red passes the black, which I think it does, Selby could be in here with a chance to pot this red. And indeed he does, so the line was always favourable to him. Let's see what the kiss is going to be on the brown. It's going to be a really favourable one for Selby. So I would say this is a great chance for him to win this frame, but with the green positioning, I wouldn't say that just yet. With him being 9 points ahead with his brown. He's now on the yellow, so that will put him 11 points clear. We're still 25 on the table, so you'll need green, brown and blue to get this frame won, and needs to start off with the decent positioning on the green here. It's probably done about as good as he could have from the angle he had on the yellow. He leaves himself with a little bit of an angle to try and get cue ball out of the cushion area and land nicely on the brown, but number one focus for Selby, of course, will be getting this green into the pocket. And so important shot this is. Well, Selby needs to make sure he gets it, and he doesn't. So this frame is not over yet here, as Williams comes back to the table to not really have anything, but at least I think he'll be happy to come back to the table being alive in this frame and not facing any snookers. So 11 points is the gap between the two of them in favor of Selby, but still 25 points on the table, and all 5 colours being very much in open play. Because actually I didn't think Williams could put that green, but he's found some sort of a cut there. And what a shot he's played to get on the brown. Brilliant there from Mark Williams. And what a steal this would be from the Welsh world number 5. As the brown goes in as well, all of a sudden he only needs the pink for the respot, and then the black should be straightforward for a straight win in this frame. So Selby had the chance in the first frame, in the third frame, but it looks like it will be Mark Williams taking both of those to have himself set up with a 3-0 lead here. And a commanding lead, and brilliantly done there from Williams in the end. Finds a really good pot there on the green and pounces in that error from Selby. Gets himself a third frame on the board and is now leading by 3 frames to 0 here. Mark Selby has it all to do in the upcoming frames, as we've got the first match that has already ended there, and brilliant from Stan Moody. Well, what a campaign he's having here, through to the quarterfinals. Fair play to the teenager. absolutely crushing Barry Hawkins out of it. 18-year-old. He's going to turn 19 in September this year. But what a performance. Less than 90 minutes gone. And he already dispatched Barry Hawkins with 5 frames to 0 there. Salgadon is on the run to do that against Matthew Selt, although Selt is probably getting himself a frame on the board here and make it 3-1. Janganda there leads Aaron Hill by exact scoreline, 3 frames to 1, and Mark Williams is now leading Mark Selby to 3 frames to 0 there. So far, most of the frames and most of the matches are being dominated, I should say, as one of them has already ended, with Stan Moody being the first quarter-finalist here at Wuhan Open. And that dink curse is certainly not there for him now. Reminder, he will face either Zhao Guodong or Matthew Selt, depending on who's going to come out on top in that battle. But the interesting part will be, of course, in the afternoon session with Watchalong facing Gary Wilson. And the winner of that pair will play the winner of Tom Ford against John Higgins, and a brilliant pair to watch out for. And at the bottom of the draw, you've got Mark Allen facing Chip Chayonu in the afternoon session today, and the attacking players clash there with Stephen Maguire facing Si Jiawei in the last 16 matches there. But in this match, it has been Mark Williams, the player that has been able to get the better of Mark Selby with the latest one, making way too many errors. But you have to say, this 60 points of a maximum break in the match, it's just not been good enough. And you can see there on table 2 confirmation that Stan Moody has finished off his match against Barry Hawkins in a whitewash. So a brilliant performance there from the world number 61. And I think some good words there will be said by Barry, as Williams now is back to the table here on the table number 1. And we are ready to be back for some more action in the Williams against Selby clash. As now Mark Williams starts off with a decent break-off. Selby now will be looking to respond himself. So hasn't got too easy of an introduction here, Selby. So still has got a potential long pot that I think at this point of the match you don't really want to be taking on unless you're sure you're going to make it. And whether he was sure or not, he didn't make it. But the good news for him is he hasn't left Williams with anything on the table at all in terms of the attack. So it'll be just another safety here from Williams. And a safety certainly with a shot in mind to develop the reds, get the pink out of their captivity as well. So all colors now very much playable, which is going to be a good sign for any of the players that's going to get a chance in the frame number 4. And, if you talk about the analytics point of view, it's a frame that if Williams wins it, he's got 4 sort of match frames to his name, because you only have to win 1 of the remaining 5, potentially. And for Selby, this is a chance to get himself with any sort of opportunity in the next mini session. But for now, just seems to be a exchange of safeties, and not a particularly good safety there from Selby, leaving Williams with a couple of chances, with one of them being the long pot into the left corner pocket, a couple more to the right. He's got one of those before, Mark Williams, with his screw back onto the blue. Can he do it second time of asking? Not this time though, but he was playing a lot more safe and got the cue ball quite close onto the ball carrier. So I don't think he's going to leave Selby on with anything easy here. And if he is, Selby for sure is going to have to work hard for it. Once again, just checking the position of the colours and the potential route that he will try and go for. Should he go for a safety shot? I think he's lining one up as a long pot here. Needs to make this one stick, and does. Brilliant shot there from Selby. Nicely on the black as well. I think he won Selby, even though I'm not necessarily a fan of him, but I think you want Selby to win this frame for the purely neutral point of view, because you don't want a match like that end up in a whitewash and Williams just running away with it. You want Selby to put off some sort of a fight, which is, I think, something that he will be able to do should the scoreline be 3-1 and not 4-0. But for that, he needs to make sure he gets the most out of this position, which, to be fair to Selby, is very much promising here. And he's got a nice little chance to get at least a frame on the board between the 15-session break. 15-minute break, I should say, not 15-session break. That would mean the match can resume tomorrow or something. 15-session break. Yeah, now, so Selby checking all of his options there. And in the end, has to go for a stretch with an extension. We'll be playing for the black there. And nicely done. So 9 points here for Selby. Looking to make that 16 with the black. Still has around 4 or 5 reds to aim for in really open play. And then from there, should be able to set up the pace of the frame to his advantage. Once again, hasn't got the best of angles here on these threads. Seems to be pretty straight on it, so has to generate a little bit of power to end up on the black. And boy, did he do that well. A lot of power generated, and a really nice shot there on the red. Nicely on the black this time. Will certainly use the cushion to line himself up, I think, for a middle pocket shot. And indeed it will be. 24 points on the board now. So once again, Selby exploiting all of the reds he's got to his name. With a couple more maybe available, should he put the ones that are in open play. Free up more space for some more of those. 25 points already, so far on the maximum scoring board. That will give him a little bit of a thing to cheer on potentially in terms of purely confidence-wise ahead of the next frame. Should he win this one. So 33 points after this red. And this time it will be the pink that he'll be playing. So that'll put him 39 points clear. It's still a lot of work to do. But that'll be a start here as he's looking to improve on his highest break already. He being 43. He's on 39 already. So I think he will do that in the next couple of shots. And yeah, as I say, this is a must-win frame. Oh, God. Must-win frame, I should say, for Selby. God, that took long to get out of my mouth. 3-1 is very different scoreline to being 4-0 down and basically giving up, I would say. Even if you're Selby, you can't really be expecting yourself to win 5 frames on the bounce against a player like Mark Williams when you're playing the way Selby has. But for now, he's got the best break of the match for him so far, with it being 47. Looking to get the second 50-plus break of the match so far, with Williams having won himself in the second frame. With the pink to do that. And a couple of more shots and we'll have the highest break of the match so far by any of the players. Because so far that is 60 points by Mark Williams in that same frame number 2 there. So 91 points on the table here because of course the more points you accumulate and the higher value of colors you use, the more points is remaining on the table, because you're accumulating those points, but you're only using a handful full of reds. This time it's 55 points with this red, and lands really nicely on the black with a good angle there. So 83 on the table this time, so not too far out. With the next red taken out, it will be around 65 point advantage. 70, I should say. With 75 on the table. So still for a 1-4-5 here, potentially. Should he make a total clearance with the rest of the reds played with the black. But this is a key shot here for Selby, because no matter how many points he accumulated, he still needs one more red here after this black for a frame ball. And for that, he needs to land on one after a good split here from the bunch. This time, he's got a little bit better. I'm not sure if he's got one to the corner pocket. He certainly has one into the middle. And he certainly has got one to the corner pocket. So, frame ball here for Mark Selby to put himself with at least a chance here. And a 3-1 deficit to Mark Williams. So, a good break here for Selby. Important one as well. And the one that he actually hasn't been able to take too much time on. So being pretty rapid fourth frame, especially if you compare it to any of the other ones. Now the question is, we want to see, is the century break from Mark Selby still in for a 1-4-5 potentially? Should you play all the remaining reds with a black and make a total clearance here? With 4 reds on the table, so 59 points still on the table for him. Nicely done here, once again. 87 points. The next black will disappear. And you'll only have 2 more shots until the century break. With this black meaning it's 94 now. The red will make it 95, and either of the expensive colors will make it above the century break. Which is exactly the kind of thing that Selby would like to see from his point of view. And now nicely on the pink for the century here. Nicely done here by Selby. 101 break now, the highest of the match by far. And it comes at potentially a clutch time here for Selby. As he only played the pink here. You can see currently on this break 3 times. So still in for a 140 break. Potentially even a 144 here. If he takes this black on and takes the remaining red with the black as well. Won't be the highest break of the tournament though, with those being the maximum breaks that the pair of Chepchayono and Salgadon has made. Still, be really nice for Selby to see that on the scoreboard, a break of 140 plus, with him looking to make that 144 now, lining up on the last black until the 6 colors remaining. 117 here. So with 27 points on table, very much still up for grabs that 144 break. Only the green is out of his spot, so the positioning from yellow to green will be key here. And he's got that one pretty nicely done there. Once again, Selby with a screw back on the green and lining the brown up as perfectly misses it there. A really good cue ball control during this break from Selby will be really promising signs. Selby will not give up. Kevin, I agree with you. I don't think you will. And I don't think he's got really an option of giving up. All he has to do is focus on himself and he will be in with a chance. 131 here, so looking to finish it off with 144. Just 2 more pots left for that. Of course, that will make it 12 blacks and 3 pinks potted, apart from each of them being potted in the end with the 6 colors. And not quite a total clearance there, as Selby decides to rattle the black in the jaws, and in the end the black stays out, but still a brilliant break of 137 there from Mark Selby. And we're going to have an intermission here and the match interrupted for a 15-minute break here, as Mark Selby now leads Mark Williams. No, sorry, Mark Williams now leads Mark Selby by 3 frames to 1. The Englishman getting the frame back, at least one of them in the end, to put himself in with a chance, but it's still the Welsh world number 5 that is leading Selby by 3 frames to 1. As I say, we'll be back with some more action in a couple of moments' time. In 15 minutes' time, I should say. But for now, the players and the broadcasters will have a little break on our hands. Feel free to tune in 15 minutes' time. The stream will continue from there. So then, everybody, thanks for sticking with us. And now we're back after the little 15-minute break. The intermission is now over, and it's Mark Selby with a good break off here. So straight away, getting things up and running here. Williams will now himself to try and find a long pot, which so far he has been able to do. This time he's done that again, but hasn't landed on the black there. So good pot that doesn't seem like it's gonna give him anything other than 1 point. And yeah, straight away there, no hesitation. Just plays the safety off the green ball there. So good start from Williams. Still, even though it's a 1 point, it's still a good sign of his sharpness. You know, he didn't want to come out rusty in the first part of the second session, which is what Selby very much was in the opening 3 frames. And yeah, with that shot of his, still seems to be potentially rusty now. As I have to say, I thought that break was going to be in favor of Selby, but that first shot of him after the break off doesn't really look like it was, as he misses the red entirely whilst trying to catch the thin edge of it, and will now be put back exactly where he was to go for a repetition of that shot and try and hopefully land a little bit better on it. So now Selby has attempt number 2, and this time it's a lot better. He catches the red, but he's got it almost over the pocket there, and if it's touching the cushion, I won't actually be surprised if Williams has a go at it, just because of how close it is. You see, that's exactly what he's checking. As I say, I think if it's on the cushion, Williams, well, he should definitely take it out of the pocket if he is going to go for it or not, but I think he will try and pot it. Not too much power, and yeah, misses it in the end. And then on the cushion it goes, so unlucky there from Williams, you know, of all the places to finish off. Finishes over the pocket, so had to be dealt with that red, whether he was going to take it out of the game by playing off the cushion or just trying to go for a pot attempt, which was something that he actually tried to do. Didn't work out for him at the time of asking, and it's now Selby that has a decent chance. So we'll see what he can do here. Lucky break for Selby. We'll see. We'll see. It's similar position to the one he was able to sort of pounce on in the previous frame in number 4. But it's a little bit different circumstances. You know, he was fresh off playing a couple of shots in the first 3 frames, even though not all of them were successful. It's always a little bit different when you're coming back after a 15-minute break. You know, the shot pot success is not entirely going to be there. We've seen him miss a safety already, but the first couple of shots have not been bad at all. It lands on the red that he put onto the cushion a couple of shots ago. So now looking to take that out of the equation. Land on the black nicely and again. Doesn't want to be straight on this. As the angle that he's got there, it's potential. I think he won't go for the split of the bunch, so I think he'll just have to navigate it through the bunch and line into the red into the right corner. So he doesn't do that. So he has got one lined up in the middle now. He decides to go for the corner pocket instead, so still going well. Could make 40 points out of these until he needs to go into the bunch heavily there, Mark Selby, with around 10 reds still being there for him. You just see he's just looking at what is the best angle to be potentially lining up for the cannon. I think the position is set up almost too good there. I think the only concern, well, with me in mind, I think he'll be playing from the blue. And if he is, I think the only concern from that split is going to be one of the reds going into the pocket, as their position seems to be Almost a perfect triangle there. So has to be careful with this type of shot. In the end, the red is in, so nicely on the blue here. Hasn't got too much of an angle, so might actually have to go from downstairs here and go with the 2 cushion potential split here. And a lot of power generated on that, a lot of accuracy, I would say. And as he got lucky, unless he's got one to the middle, I don't think he has, so he will be 38 points scored and just a safety shot here. I don't think he can see that red to the extent he needs to put it into the middle. See if I'm wrong there. Yeah, he couldn't. So he was playing that red, but only as a safety option for him. Puts the cue ball nicely onto the ball carrier. So good break for for Selby. You know, he isn't going to do damage to Williams, but still nice way to get himself started in this frame. It was always going to be difficult for him to try and sort of land on one of the reds after having that split. As this time Williams responds with a decent safety of his. I think Selby now will do exactly the same thing and himself play towards the yellow. Sort of in between the yellow and the brown on towards the ball cushion area. So once again put a little bit more pressure on Williams at that time of asking. The position's still looking quite promising, I would say, for Selby at this point. So something I would say is probably not going to be in his favour. You know, you would like 1, maybe 2 reds to be dead on the cushion to make catching up for Williams a little bit more difficult. Puts the pink a little bit more into the free zone, which I don't think is going to have a massive impact on any of the player. Leaves Williams with the right hand side of the table to deal with. And he's going to go for that remote red for a potential cross double. We will see him. And line the cue ball quite close to the green pocket there. Nicely done once again. Not a lot of distance and a lot of room between the cue ball and the cushion there, so won't be too straightforward for Selby to find any sort of long pot chances here. Safety shouldn't be a problem though. So let's see. I think he'll respond with a cross double of his. And exactly what he's done. This time switches the run of play onto the yellow pocket, but once again just a little bit pacey that cue ball was. Don't think it's going to cost him anything, but it's going to make that safety shot for Williams just a little bit easier. And a chance to put more pressure on the Welshman. Probably gone away there from Selby. As Williams comes away with a decent safety of his own. Not giving anything away cheaply there. So the 5th frame started very much the way the first 3 have. I think the 4th one was a little bit of exception of the 4 of them, with that being the only one that didn't have a lot of safeties at the start. It was very much Selby having the break from the get-go, but this time finds a really good long pot there. Selby needs to have a kiss on the brown and doesn't, so looks like he'll just have to roll up to either the brown or yellow. It's nicely done there. Have a long pot, really. Of course, his priority being the safety side of the play there, but taking the bonus of a pot and now has a positive dilemma, I would say, and a positive foot for third there. Selby, just to see which ball is going to be most beneficial for him to be rolling up to. He's considering green here, which would put Williams in a lot more trouble, but he's also a lot harder to sort of get in behind him perfectly. I think the easier one of the 3 of them is going to be the brown. But of course, green is going to do more damage, and he does decide to go for the green. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. So yeah, he decides to sacrifice the angle, and he hasn't played that one particularly well. Selby. I think he was, the aim was not even to get the snooker, but put the green a little bit more out of the play. Because I think that is the colour that Williams will need should he be able to catch up. And 4 points of a foul here, so Williams decided not to be playing off the left-hand side of that red ball. And let's see if he left Selby with anything, as he has a brief scan there, and the ball will be coming back with the cue ball right behind the green. So once again, attempt number 2 coming up here for Mark Williams. As now the referee will ask both Selby and Williams where the cue ball is positioned there. There you go, you can see on the screen, so still a little bit off there. Needs to go backwards rather than forwards. But of course, Williams is more focused on the angle that he's got, so he doesn't want to be cheating here and doesn't want to see too much of the red. You can see the positioning of the cue ball is way off there, but don't think it's going to make a massive difference. I think Williams will ask, check on the screen. So yeah, a little bit of a delay in play here, as Williams will ask the referee to just double check with his assistant referee and make sure that he's got the perfect position on it, which at this moment in time he doesn't, and the cue ball will have to go back a touch towards the green pocket there. As while we do that, we can have a look at the other matches. So Zhao Guodong, Matthew Selt is 4-1 in favor of the Chinese player that is now only 1 frame away from booking himself a spot to the quarterfinals. And Zhang Anda now had his lead cut off now by Aaron Hill. Is now only leading by 1 frame and 3 frames to 2 there. So as cue ball is finally has got his position restored, and Williams will have attempt number 2, which surely he'll make this time around, but doesn't seem to have an awful lot of pace here. And once again, just a little bit short of pace there from Mark Williams. And it is 4 points to Mark Selby once again there. Don't think he's left anything on. J&J Snooker says, come on, Aaron Hill. Clearly from Ireland. Clearly a sign from Ireland, that is. And Selby has a little laugh there with Williams. Yeah, I think Aaron Hill has had a good campaign already. Yep, there you go. There's your confirmation. Love that. Love the backing of the compatriot. And Selby in the end decides to take that position from Williams and just to send the red ball up towards the green pocket. Clever shot once again. Yeah, Aaron Hill had a good campaign already. I know he's beaten Karen Wilson. I'm not too sure who you'll have to face. He'll face obviously the winner of this match, Mark Selby against Mark Williams, and was able to beat Leipe Fan yesterday, and he decided as well. So good campaign for the Irishman for sure. Who didn't have to do. He beat Kyron the other day, 5-2. Yep, Leipe Fan he beat there. There you go. So a decider 5-4 and 5-2 respectively. So he's had a good campaign. Needs to make sure he gets himself in with a chance against Zhang Anda there. He beat Selby 4. Yeah, I was watching that match. He absolutely crushed him. Was it English Open a couple of years ago? Where he just brought his game to him and Selby didn't have any response. This time Selby had an attempt of a long shot, and I think he's left Williams with that. I don't want to say straightforward, but a long shot that you should never really be leaving the player of the Mark Williams quality there. Yep, well remembered, mate. Yeah. It was a good match, to be fair. It was a good match. Ooh, unlucky there from Williams. Unlucky there. The red ball stays out, and it will be another chance here for Selby. So let's see if he can make it work from the second time of asking. I think that landing on the colour will be the most important of all of those points, as he catches the brown quite favourably to him. And in the end should be a straightforward end to the match from here. has got a brown potted as well. So 56 points on the board now, 51 being the gap, with 83 on the table. Selby can close this one now. Yeah, Williams, I think, will be frustrated with the chances he's had, especially with that long shot. You know, he should have been the one trying to cut the gap to Selby, but looks like it ain't gonna happen now. $62 points on the board here for Selby. 57 is the gap, so a couple of more reds eliminated. That will bring the gap to just one frame in favour of the Welshman. Selby seems to be finding a lot more cue action there and a lot more confidence in terms of his break building. Still, too many errors in terms of his long pot game, and his safety game hasn't been as sublime as you would expect it to be. But so far, in the last two frames, it looks like he still has been able to do the damage, as this time he's got the frame ball in the pink coming up here as the pink disappears in the pocket. So the next red will be a frame ball here for him. 64 points is the gap between the two. 67 is on the table remaining. So this red for just one frame in it, and in it goes. So good stuff here from Selby. A lot better of a response, as I say, that frame that he won at the end of the first mini session is coming really clutch here and really important for Mark Selby, I should say. Once again, just forgetting that we've got two marks on the table. Once again, can't quite make a century break out of this one, but still should be a decent enough break if he is to make a clearance of around 70 plus points. The pin goes in the middle once again. So a lot of good potting here from Selby. You know, not making any silly errors so far from the decent positioning that he had. Once again, just rolling that red into the pocket and landing on the pink nicely. And in goes the pink. So 38 points. Could potentially make this another 50 plus break for Selby. Only his third in the match. After, of course, making one, turning one into a century as well. Could have been a 1-4-4 of a total clearance had he not rattled the black heavily into the jaws and settled for a 1-3-7 in the end. Go for a pink this time around, so it doesn't look like the 50 plus break will be happening because you've got a lot of ground to cover up from this pink onto the red, which means you'll have to play with a lot of power, which makes pink very much missable, and that's exactly what happened. The pink is missed, but the frame is won here for Mark Selby, as Mark Williams now leads by 3 frames to 2, so a 3-0 lead now turns into a 3-2 lead from Williams, who is still ahead, but hasn't got that cushion anymore, as Aaron Hill now is looking to close that gap on Janganda down, with him having a break of 18 at this moment in time, trailing by 15 points. Zhao Grun and Matthew Selt seem to be involved in a heavy snooker battle at this moment in time. Grun still leads that one by 4 frames to 1. And a little reminder as well, if you're tuning up a little bit late, we will have a Judd Trump against Gary Wilson on the 12:30 today. So just a little bit more than 3 hours from now, we'll be covering this one on this channel as well, with the potential John Higgins against Tom Ford, should the first match end a lot sooner than we expect, being covered up next to it as well. So some good last 16 matches, you know. We've got obviously this one. We've got the Godun against Selt one, which I think is going to be a good one. Higgins against Ford is going to be a cracker. Stephen Maguire against Si Xiaowei is going to be a really good one. And then Mark Cullen against Chep Chia. No, not necessarily looking forward to that one. But Judd Trump against Gary Wilson is going to be really nice, with Gary knocking out Sean Murphy yesterday in quite a commanding performance. Let's see if he can do the same. So the world number one hasn't had a brilliant campaign to this season so far. I mean, the quarterfinals of Shanghai Masters was the highest of the stages that he's reached. Looking to repeat that with the win today against his compatriot Gary Wilson. As we wait for the two players to come back to frame number 6, as Williams will be looking to restore himself to the winning ways and get himself at least a 2-frame cushion here. Will Selby winning the last 2 frames and putting that gap down to just 1 frame, making sure that Williams is not feeling too comfortable right now and knows that Selby's there for him for the taking should Williams make another couple of mistakes. A break off here for Mark Williams, doesn't make any mistake this time around, leaves the cue ball nicely on the cushion with the lonely red available for the long pot, but always difficult to be landing on the black from this sort of angle, whilst guaranteeing that you're not going to give anything easy to your opponent in terms of the available reds. I think the transition from the cue ball, from the ball cushion to the black ball cushion is a logical option here for Selby to consider. And that's exactly what he's done. A nice little cushion escape. And switches the run of play there. The red is now going to go quite close to the yellow spot with the black ball sitting on the black ball, with the cue ball I should say, sitting on the black ball cushion there. And yeah, Williams didn't really want that kiss of the yellow for the red, so needs to be careful here. I'd say early signs of concern here for Williams. You know, it was Selby that looked like he was the one who came back after the break a little bit rusty. But after making the second break in the previous frame work for him, it is now Williams that only has 1 more frame as a cushion to his name. Selby finds a decent safety here, as Williams now rolling up to the bunch. Nicely done, judged the pace really well there to avoid the touching ball for Selby, so not to give him any sort of free shot and a full control over the cue ball, so just decides to have a little nudge towards the red ball bunch there, and the turn goes back to Williams. Once again, the tendency of the match, which I have to say I am surprised that Williams is playing up to this tendency, you know, having all the safety shots in pretty much every single one of those frames. I think only the third one being the exception. Now Selby has got a potential double into the middle that he's actually really close to, and only just about misses it. Was really, really close there and was on the black if he made it. So certainly a shot that was worth taking the risk for. Now Williams has a potential chance into the green pocket of a long pot, but the angle is not really in his favour here. So I think it'll just be a safety of some sort. So once again, probably a clever shot there from Selby to play, even though the red ball was so close to the pocket, he still stayed out of it and hasn't left it hanging over the middle pocket. As Williams now just goes for, once again, a switchback for the cue ball to be on the ball cushion area. Selby will assess the options that he's got right now, as once again a safety battle will resume here. Matthew Selt has got one of the frames back against Zhao Gudon, so that match now is 4-2 in favour of Gudon, and Zhang Anda and Aaron Hill are really, really close to each other now. 43 points to Zhang, 42 to Aaron, with 43 on the table there. So there you go. Looks like the frame number 6 there is going to be really massive for both players. For now, Selby has got a snooker to try and escape from. Straightforward one, roll up to the bunch. Needs to make sure he gets the right side of the red, which he did. Nicely done once again. So Selby here with a decent escape, and I think Williams will just put him in a similar position to what he was a couple of shots ago. Didn't want to catch yellow and brown full ball there. Leaves Selby with two potential long ball chances. And yeah, a little bit weird of a shot selection there from Williams, you know, especially with the control and the option that he's had. I'll be surprised if Selby doesn't take at least one of those on with the safety in mind. You know, either resting the cue ball on the black cushion or getting it back towards the bulk area. But yeah, I think he's lining one up in the left pocket there. Certainly is. He's missed it though, so that red is now going to go over the middle pocket. So it could be a blessing in disguise there for Williams, you know, leaving that shot for Selby. Could have been a bait for him, to be fair. I don't really think it was. Not really going to try and bait the player of a professional quality that Mark Selby is. But either way, it is now Mark Williams with another chance earlier on in the frame after a mistake from his opponent. And yeah, looking to build a gap of any kind. Here, Mark Williams got 4 points on the board, got 3 more reds to work with until he gets heavily into the bunch, you would seem. Now on the blue, looking to land on the red highest of them all, next to the pink spot. And I think he will try and avoid touching the pink right now. I think he'll try and just play with the blue and the black here, because, you know, you want to just keep the pink out of the way if you're going to make a massive split into the bunch. Or a cannon, depending on what type of shot you want to play there. But for now, just in and around the black spot. Nicely done. So looking to secure 25 points here as a guarantee, and then anything on top of that will rely on a little bit of slice of luck and a good positional shot. On the blue or the black, depends on, once again, which way he prefers it. So far, from my observations, the ones he's played off the black hasn't really got him into any sort of benefit area. I think he's got one more red to play here because he hasn't got any kind of angle on the black here. So 26 points here for Williams. And so may try and get into the bunch from this red here and just give himself a little bit of a guarantee that he will end up on the color and just try and force it from there. Just a bit too much pace on that shot though. Should have known that, and should have been a little bit more careful with it. Now I've got a difficult black to face. The cube ball will be going into the reds, which I think will actually suit Williams, but needs to make sure this black is in. And it just about is, as he landed on the red. His reaction doesn't quite tell that at this point, so he certainly has one to the middle, with not the most favourable of angles for him. Still should be able to do the job there and take it to a gap of some sort. Yeah, I think he can just about get through to this red. Not too sure if he can pot it though, so probably we'll have to go against that and just go for the safe option into the middle. But seems to be taking a long and a hard look at it. So, of course, getting on the color is a lot easier from that red. You know, transition to the blue should be really straightforward. You could also just try and hang it for the black. And yeah, once again, the Williams just has one last look, it would seem, and probably has to settle for a middle pocket shot. And seems to be reluctant to do that, so it just tells you how little confidence he has in that middle pocket shot. Taking, oh wow, he hasn't actually took it at all. Wow, that's why he was taking so much time on it. I was 100% convinced he was gonna, in the end, just take that shot into the middle, but obviously the cue ball going into the reds, he thought against that. So a break of 34 and a decent safety here. So could be a roll in reverse here to the previous frame. Of course, Selby had a 33 points lead earlier on against Williams, and was able to close the frame off from the second time of asking after a second decent break in the frame. Could Williams do exactly the same but himself now? And Selby seems to miss the first snooker attempt here. So 4 points go the way of Williams. Won't necessarily matter at this stage of the frame, with still almost 100 being on the table. But yeah, Selby needs to make sure he's careful with the positioning, because we've seen Williams miss a couple of those like that, and sometimes it just give away a positional shot to Selby or Williams in this regard that could be a lot more costly than those points. Once again, another 4 points go the way of Mark Williams as Selby misses another attempt. Pretty much identical positioning and identical misses from the last one. Selby's not too sure how on earth he's done that twice in a row. Could be blaming this on the referee not getting the cue ball spot on, to be fair, which does happen. That's why you need the video review for. Selby down to the shot quick once again for attempt number 3. Seems to have the better line here. As you can see, he's over to check it straight away, and this one seems to catch the red, and it does. So catches it perfectly here. Doesn't leave Williams with anything but a straightforward safety shot, and the cue ball will head back towards the bulk area, which is, I think, the place that he spent most of his time today. Williams using all of the cushion side to make sure he doesn't catch the jaw of the pocket, but a little bit short of pace there. Could have been a lot more trouble for Selby. Could have been actually a very similar shot to the one he had to play off and give away 8 points to Williams. Now, once again, a decent safety shot here from Selby, but short of pace there, the cue ball. And the angle is not really favourable in terms of the long shot here for Williams, but certainly a shot that you will keep in mind there. So will be absolutely brilliant if he makes it. It could be horrible if he doesn't, but he did make it in the end. So a brilliant shot came at a really important time there for Williams, and is in prime position once again to win this frame number 6. Needs a good transition from the black to the color. Could potentially consider the red on the cushion there if it's exactly on the cushion. It'll be a little bit more difficult if it's not. You can see the fans in the background just enjoying themselves, seeing themselves on the big screen. So Williams decides to settle for a difficult shot into the middle. Once again, still a lot more points, so can't afford any sort of errors here, especially on the colors when lining himself up for the reds. Goes for the yellow pocket shot and misses it and leaves the red over the pocket there. So I have to say, a little bit surprised with the shot selection once again. You know, it looked like he could have been playing for this red on the cushion. He decided against that, so he decided to play for the red into the green pocket and landed with an awkward angle. Left himself with a lot of work to do. And in the end, it looked like it might have been just too much work for him to do. And Selby will now try and capitalize on that mistake. And straight away has messed up the first positional shot on the blue, landing the wrong side of it. Williams is a bit reckless. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's just playing a little bit weirdly now. He's played pretty well and pretty consistent in the first 3 frames. It was the mistakes in terms of just the misses that he was making that were haunting him and losing him the points. But this time, it just seems like he's running out of position for way too many times. You know, he's playing some weird shots in my view. Selby here with a waste of a chance himself, to be fair, because you know, from the red hanging over the pocket, basically, you would have expected him to land a lot better on the blue ball and do a lot more damage than just 6 points. But it looks like that will be it here for Selby. Yeah, he's just lining up a safety shot here. And it's exactly that. So 6 points scored, and a decent safety shot. Needs to miss the yellow, but in the end, the yellow has done him a favour. I think, actually, to be fair to him, he shouldn't apologise too much for it, because the line of the cue ball would have probably finished in identical spot, he would seem, but got to make sure, and that kiss certainly helped him in that particular time of asking, leaving Williams with a lot of work to do. Now aiming for one of the reds on the bottom part of the table, and going a bit too far there. I think he'll be put back, as Selby White will feel that, you know, he can get a little bit more out of this position. As once again, the referee will make sure the cue ball is exactly where it should be, as a little delay in the game once again. By the way, Aaron Hill has managed to level things up against Zhang Anda. So it's 3 frames all there. Salgadon has his battle with Matthew Selt resume, with the Englishman having 18 points to his name, whilst trailing by 2 frames to 4 to the Chinese player. This time, different line there from Williams, but still quite far from catching either of the red. So there we go. 4 points go the way of Selby once again. And Williams will have attempt number 3 here. Trying to potentially get things right here. Seems a better line. And I think he's going to catch it, but is he going to leave anything? No, he's not. So a good shot there from Williams. Obviously taking everything into account and just giving himself a little bit of breathing space with trying the first 2 shots out. And then just realizing that he can control the pace of the cue ball and make sure that he doesn't leave any sort of chance or invitation for Selby. Mate with a lot more power and a lot more accuracy in the end, landing really nicely there. Selby there, in and out, left, right, just looking which spot is he going to play. I think just safety from the left-hand side it will be. Indeed it is. Misses the blue ball nicely, and yeah, the perfect force there from Selby. The cue ball landed really nicely in between the blue, brown and the green. Williams has got it all to do once again here in terms of his safety play. And has found a shot there that had the red quite close to the pocket, and with the cue ball trajectory might actually be a really good benefit there for Williams, as now he's got a red basically hanging over the right pocket, and if you show it, if Selby does show it, it will be in massive trouble here. So can't see that part of the table, probably can't see any reds at all here, Mark Selby. So he's got a tough ask in front of him himself here. I think he'll go for a swerve onto the cushion and land on that red closest to the right pocket. So probably the right shot to play. Needs to get it though first time, and doesn't. So let's see if Williams will attempt here a potential pot chance. Don't think you'll put Selby back in though, because from the second time of asking, Selby will certainly make that one stick. As the 4 points haven't been given to Williams, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't caught that, Selby, but, you know, maybe he's just about nudged it there by the red, but Williams has missed his spot, so it's very much back against the Selby. As he's now got himself with a chance of trying to pot the same red that I said was a dangerous area for Selby. But Williams missing his chance. Selby's got one to himself now. Makes it stick. How's his cue ball positioning? Not great, not bad. He's landed on the blue into the yellow pocket with very little distance between the cue ball and the blue, but a nice angle there. So I think should be potable ball this is, and with the Reds' positioning, you have to say this is a little bit of a waste here from Williams. You know, being only 3 frames ahead by 2, and you know, only 1 frame in it. Selby could well win 3 in a row here and put himself right into this match. Needs to make sure that the blue is in though. It is, and landed really nicely on the red, going around it, going the hard way, and making it pay off in the end. So 30 points is the difference between the two players. Still 75 points on the table here. So it'll be really interesting to see what's going to happen now. Selby has got at least 4 more reds, I say 5 more reds I should say, to work with. The pink will be, I think, back on his spot here, which is not necessarily going to benefit Selby too much. But at least it will be out of the way in terms of some of the reds being possible to the right corner pocket now. Nicely done by Selby once again. Lands on the black this time around. So still a lot of work for him to do, and he will need the 2 reds that are problematic at this moment in time on the cushion. So 35 points for him already. Still 67 points on the table here. So 5 more reds, 3 of them in a decent position, 2 of them a lot more tougher position for him to try and get. Of course, he will need all of them. He might even need some of the low value colors to come on top of those as well, with him still being behind in terms of the points tally in this frame. Now being only 8 points behind, so the next 3 shots or so will put him level in terms of points with Williams. And then you'll have the last 3 reds to try and potentially build any sort of gap to his name. So let's see which one he's going to play for. The one that is available and play it into the middle. I'll try and do something with the remaining one. So decides to take the last available red into the right corner pocket, then clearly land on the black and try and either develop or run in behind one of the 2 remaining reds, both on the cushion, one on the left side cushion and the other one on the bottom black cushion there. So this red will put him on 50 points each there, with Selby being on the break of 36 at that time. And gets it in nicely. Needs an angle on the black though. I don't think he's got it. And I think that will be a sign of frustration there. Selby doesn't want to be straight on this. Needs some sort of angle to at least land. And red on the cushion doesn't seem to be too concerned about it. So I assume he's got some sort of a gap there, but certainly doesn't seem to be big that. Because now he should go 7 points ahead here, with 43 still on the table. There you go, just runs in behind that red, but cue ball being a little bit higher than I think he would have wanted. Certainly playing that as if the red is resting on the cushion in its entirety, making that shot just a little bit easier, but still far from ideal. Nicely done there by Selby. Straight into the pocket it goes. And now 1 more red until he has to get to the colors and has to deal with those. Game on, Kevin. Very much on here. And probably the thing that you want to see if you're a neutral. Certainly not the thing you want to see as a Mark Williams fan, with him leading by 3 frames to 0. And Selby now with a chance to make it 3-0. Still has got at least 4 more reds and colors to try and deal with. You know, the first red he needs to pot, then he needs to get nicely on the color. Transition to the yellow ain't going to be easy because the yellow is off his spot as well. But should be straightforward from there. Ooh, the red's wobbled in the end. Could have stayed out, but didn't. Now Selby has a blue, which has got a lot of angle on it actually. So Not sure if he was planning to go for the blue or he's just underrun it slightly, but needs to hold for the yellow a lot here and get himself nicely on it. Overrun slightly, but think he's alright, just about. You need the yellow and the green, at least to his name. As he's now 21 points clear. Yellow will put him 23 ahead, and the green will put him 26 ahead. And the yellow is in, so nice break there from Selby, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but he certainly was able to capitalize on another mistake from Williams to put the scoreline to what looks to be 3-0 draw here. Just the green needed, and the green is in there. So, barring snookers, Mark Selby has won the 6th frame, and he's put himself right back in it here. Probably going to be favourite for the match here, you know, after an early 3-0 lead from Williams. The man in form is now Mark Selby, even though he's the lowest seed of the two. I think he will be the favourite for this match with the way he's played, especially last couple of frames. You know, getting the break of 137 right before the break, and now getting a total clearance of 84 if he pots the black, which indeed he does. And a total clearance of 84 here for Mark Selby to finish off the frame in style. And now leads Mark Williams by, not leading, but has tied things up here. And these 3 frames all. Mark Williams winning the first 3 frames, and Selby responding with 3 wins in a row for him. A little break here until the players come back to the action. And let's see how the other ones are doing. So Xiao Guodong looks like he will win this match now in this way. In this frame, he's now 40 points clear of Matthew Selt with 51 on the table. A safety battle seems to be going on there, so Selt is hanging on in that match. Jaganda is on a break of 20 here in his battle against Aaron Hill in the frame number 7. Still very equal in that regard out there. And of course, our match is now at 3-0 as well. So Mark Selby 3, Mark Williams 3 as well. Quite a contrasting matches, I would say. The 4 we have, you know, 3 of them still going on, and the first one has already ended with a whitewash of Stan Moody destroying Barry Hawkins with 5 frames to 0 there. So good snooker already, and I think we'll see a lot more of that in the second part, with still the likes of Judd Trump, Gary Wilson, Stephen Maguire, Si Xiaowei are yet to come here, and you'll be really interested to see the way those will perform. But yeah, nice little break. Moody coming live, looking at, oh yeah, breaking the Dinkers once again. I know it's the 3rd time I mentioned it, but 18 months, you know, how mad is that? 18 months every single time the player has won against Ding Junhui, he would lose the next round match, and Moody has managed to break that curse, and by beating Zhou Yulong 5-1 yesterday, and today already destroying Barry Hawkins 5 frames to 0. Actually, I want to see how many frames has he lost in the entire tournament, Moody, because it wouldn't be a lot. You know, of course, he had to come out on top of... so, yeah, he's beaten Ding by 5 frames to 3. So, 4 frames he's lost in the 3 matches he's played there. So, not bad at all. Not bad at all. And we'll, of course, have a difficult draw. Stan Moody with, you know, the... So, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it was going to be Sal Goodon against Matthew Selt. Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. So it looks like it will be Sal Goodon at that time, and I think it will be really difficult for Moody to win that one, especially on against the home crowd. I think it'll be a difficult match for him. But I suppose if you can beat the likes of Ding and Barry Hawkins and Zhou Yulong, you're more than capable of beating another Chinese player in Sal Goodon. But now we're back in action here for frame number 7, and it will be Mark Selby to break this one off, it would seem, and start off with hopefully a decent break off for him. Needs a good frame here once again to still not allow Williams to be ahead by 4 frames to 3. And if he can win 4 frames on the bounce, he will very much put himself as a massive favorite for this match. For now, though, he's the man in form, but this match is still very much anyone's for the taking. Mark Williams now has a long pot lining up here. And he misses it, so seems to be a little bit unraveling here. I think we've had a switch in the play here. I think it was Selby who was doing those types of shots previously in the first 3 frames, and now all of a sudden it's Williams that is with a tendency. And yeah, so concerning signs if you're a Welshman fan. Promising signs if you're a Mark Selby fan. As he's got a potential double to take on right now once again. So decides against that, so he just goes for a safety shot there. Williams was 4-0 up last game and said he ran out of strength, felt tired. You know what, you mentioned that yesterday, didn't you? You mentioned that yesterday, and I did say that if Williams is tired, the worst possible player to be tired against, and especially if you let that statement in public, is Mark Selby, because this could be a tactical thing. I did say that Selby was playing those long safety battles at the start of every single frame. Well, I did forget about that, by the way. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. But if Williams has said, because I haven't found that interview, I haven't seen it myself, but if you say it twice, and it certainly looks like he has just run out of steam, because you know those 3 frames, it's not like Williams was on a maximum attempt 3 times with them. It's not like he had a century break every single time he won that frame. His highest break is 60. He hasn't had a clean frame from start to finish yet. And, you know, with him winning those scrappy frames, it was more of Selby just not taking his chances. And Williams was able to get on top of him. But now, energy running low for him. It is logical for Selby to be winning those frames. And yeah, with that in the equation, could still be 5 frames on the bounce here for Selby. Needs to work for it though, as Williams is still in it, but can't afford any more mistakes, no matter how much strength he's got in him. Has to fight back. Has to fight back with some sort of, you know, quality. Now seem to be sending that green towards the yellow pocket, potentially trying to pot it. Not far out, but once again, he's doing more damage that he's not far out, as once again that red ball just stays over the pocket. And an introduction for Selby once again here. Yeah, it does seem to be just like you say, it just seems to be like he's got absolutely no steam in him, and I think that is also a sign for him that he's got no more strength to be in those long safety battles, and you know, he's sort of like, I'm gonna go for it, and if I lose, well, it's not like I've got a lot in the tank left anyway, so I would have lost anyway. But it's sad. It's a sad thing if you're a Mark Williams fan, but it's certainly I think Selby was trying to exploit here, and so far, especially in the last 3 frames, he's managed to do it quite nicely here. So leads now by 1 point already. Now he's facing a little bit of a weird shot selection. Could get either yellow or brown here. So I think he'll go for the yellow this time of asking. Still could land on the red quite comfortably. And does it nicely there. So good stuff there from Selby. I don't know why I've got Williams with 3 points on the board. It is certainly Selby with red and the yellow potted. Landed a little bit awkwardly on the red. And now we'll just have to deal with the position he's got. I think he'll have to use the ball cushion to land on any of the colors, but will be quite close to the pocket. Needs to make sure he avoids the jaws. Just about does, but this time you'll have to face a pocket into the bottom right corner there. It's not the most difficult of them all, but once again, he needs to make sure it's in and get a lot of cue action on the ball, on the cue ball, I should say, to get on the next red. So the position is nice, and the yellow is in. So nicely done once again here for Selby, hanging on for now. You know, playing low value colors. Once again, just looking to the stand there. Has been not particularly happy with his last couple of days with the way the fans have been behaving themselves. In terms of disrupting his play there, but this time, once again, we'll be unhappy with him just not getting enough angle and enough power on the blue, so has to settle for the green. If you can see it, actually. I mean, he has to settle for the green. I say he has to settle for the green. If you can see it in its entirety, that is going to be enough for him to try and pot it. But now, looks like he can. So a lot of backspin on it and going behind for the red. Nicely done. So grinding out points here, I would say Selby. 10 points. It's got a red into the middle. Ooh, that one was quite close to the jaw, it would seem to me, but in the end misses it. So no problems at all. Now once again the yellow. So 3 yellows and 1 green being played for Selby. And goes into the bunch of reds, just skids past it. And unfortunate there for Selby. You know, he's done everything right. He's done everything probably he could have out of that position, eliminating the 4 reds. Only getting 13 points out of it. But still some table time for him. Some more patience tests for Mark Williams to be sitting back in his chair. And now the Welshman will come back to the table. So we'll see now what's going to happen this time of asking. Ooh, Williams goes for an aggressive attempt there. Tries to split up the bunch with 1 shot. But the downside of that was always going to be the thing that he was bound to leave a red on. The question is, can Selby get through to 1? If he can't, it will be a massive one for Williams in the next shot, because that'll put a lot of pressure on Selby to get this one spot on. Can't afford to be showing any of that left-hand side of the table, especially with the 2 reds hanging over the pocket. Depends on which angle you try and pot them from. We'll see there. Actually, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too sure what's going to happen there. So Selby in the end, I think he goes for a long pot attempt himself. Misses it in the end, so it probably was forced into one. Needs the cue ball to go in behind the brown. Doesn't look like he has. So Williams will have a chance of some sort, of whether a safety or a pot, depends how much he can see of that red. Looks like he'll go for the one further away from the pocket, so a tougher cut that is. And he makes it. Does he land on the color? No, he doesn't. So lands on the wrong side of the pink there, so no chance for him to get anywhere but I think on the yellow. And even a yellow will be a stretch here from the point of view of getting on the next red and trying to pot it. Still went for it, and he's got it. So a good shot there from Williams, coming in an important time. And Williams now on the break of himself. Hasn't been too keen on those in the last couple of frames, you know, not getting too many points in sequences. Now has got a decent position at his disposal once again, just has to be careful. Even the colors positioning is not that bad. You know, the pink is certainly playable to at least 2 of the pockets, the right corner pocket and the left middle. With still a couple of reds being in easy play as Williams develops a couple of them, but sacrifices a position on the pink there. So we'll see what he can do from here. He's got to stretch out, potentially use an extension and even a rest there. Let's see. Williams on the stretch needs to make sure this pink lands, and it does. So nice stuff there. Once again, neatly done. 16 points. And yeah, a couple of more reds in and around the black and the pink spot. So the pink is now very much free from any sort of problem or danger. The black is still only possible in the left corner pocket, but I think that's about to change with in a couple of shots time. With Williams already eyeing up the way, he can free up the black to go into both corner pockets. For now, the red to take onto the pink. Overlanded slightly, but should be alright without an extension. Just has to be mindful of the next red they'll be playing for. And nicely done again. So 23 points here from Mark Williams. Leads by 10 points, and you can tell the pace of the break has dropped down massively because Williams understands that even if he hasn't got a lot left in him, he's still got a chance, and he needs to make sure he maximizes those sort of chances, especially with him losing 3 frames on the bounce. And the match going into its deciding phase. Every chance is golden here for Williams, especially in a position like that, where really you should be making the most out of it and potentially winning it. Now, 31 if this red goes in. Still playing in and around the pink, so not too keen on getting the black free out of danger. Still using the reds he's got at the moment. I think with the angle he's got on the pink, he'll line up to the red to go into either of the middle pockets. Once again, really nicely done. 37 points scored already. All of them on this current break. Make that 38 as the last of the top reds disappears. So just the 4 on the bottom remain. Hasn't been a very high scoring frame up to this point. But Williams, I don't think he'll care about that too much. The only thing he'll care at this moment in time is to get himself over the line, and once again up ahead. The interesting thing it will be, of course, is should Williams win this frame, is Selby would have never led in this match until, of course, if he can win the remaining 2. That is, of course, if Williams does get over the line here, which from this point it will be a massive disaster if he doesn't. I mean, he only has a couple of more shots to play. With him being 32, now 39 ahead. A red and a color will do all the damage for him. So not too sure if he's landed awkwardly on one of the reds, because the bottom 2 does seem to be in each other's way. So that's a little bit of a tougher cut there, as he landed pretty straight on it. In terms of position on the table, angle was against him. In the end, does it really nicely. So a frame ball here for Mark Williams to get himself a 4-3 lead. And done really nicely there. Hasn't landed on the red, so unless he can find the difficult cut here, I think Selby will return to the table, as it's 1 snooker so far. And it can indeed. Let's see where the cue ball's going. It's going right in between the ball colours. So a brilliant response, I would say, from Williams to get the frame 1 in 1 visit to the table. In 1 break, it's going to be really important for him in terms of confidence and momentum. So he's just there taking his time. I think either the scoreboard hasn't updated or he's just checking something to be concerned about. I'm not too sure what he can be concerned about with him 46 points clear, 35 on the table, and still comfortably on the colour. Doesn't have to care about the red, as I'm pretty sure Selby won't be coming back to the table now. Has to face 5 snookers if he does. So I think we will go into frame 8 straight after this. And yeah, Selby stays in his chair. Logical decision there. As Williams, by the way, has his highest break of the match. extending that by 3 more points. So now 63 is the highest break for the Welshman, who now leads by 4 frames to 3. And another tradition for us. The second match has ended actually with Zhao Godun. Looks like he has managed to get the better of Matthew Selt, and he has indeed. So doing the damage in 7 frames, winning that one by 5 frames to 2, joining Stan Moody in the quarterfinals with 6 more people yet to book their spots. Yang Anda and Aaron Hill are still battling for that 7th frame, with it being 3-0 so far. And of course, this frame and this match is still very much not over, as Mark Selby is now trailing once again, this time by 3 frames to 4, in favor of Mark Williams. Once again, a little break for the players, and we'll be back in action as soon as they come back to the table. So before we do that, I just want to see what's going to be the next draw for all of them. So of course I know that this one, the winner of this pair will face the winner of Janganda Aaron Hill match. But yeah, so Zhao Godun is going to be lined up with Stan Moody, so that is the first quarterfinal already done. The second one is, of course, looks like for now is going to be, well, we don't really know, between Mark Williams, Mark Selby, and Janganda Aaron Hill. There's nothing in between those ones. Judd Trump, Gary Wilson will face the winner of John Higgins, Tom Ford, as I mentioned before. And Chepchayo Nun, Mark Allen will face the winner of Si Jiaoyi, Stephen Maguire, to finish off the quarterfinals draws there. Lovely stuff, and there we go. Frame 8 is about to begin. I think it's this time it's Williams' turn to break off. And yeah, it could be a final frame, by the way, of the match. Depends if Williams can win it, or can Selby potentially force a decider here. It's been a really good match so far, but we still have absolutely no idea who's going to come out the winner of it. For now, Williams will be the favourite, leading by 1 frame. But Selby has proved already in this match a couple of times that he is capable of coming back from those sort of being a couple of frames behind. Can he do it one more time? And if he can't, can he finally be ahead in the match for the first time? Should he win the decider? Lovely way to start off the 8th frame here with a nice little pot of a long pot here from Mark Selby. Starts really nicely there. Into the pocket it goes. Lands really nicely on the ball colours as well. I think he'll go for the yellow this time around. So hasn't done a lot wrong in the previous frame. Selby just left Williams with a little invitation to go for a long pot, and the Welshman has used that chance to perfection to win the frame from the first time of asking in 1 visit to the table. This time he's got 3 points on the board here, Selby. Nice spot from Selby. Yeah, really important one. A really important one, because as I say, that 63 break from Williams, it took a lot of time, and all that time Selby would have just been sat in his chair, you know, being cold. And it's nice for him to come back to the table with a bang of a long pot, because I think whoever you're supporting, if you're neutral, I mean, you want to see a decider, because it's always nice to see the players of that magnitude of Mark Selby and Mark Williams producing a decider. Selby has to work for it though, as Williams has guaranteed himself a decider already. Should he lose this frame, Selby hasn't, and he still has to win 1 more frame for that to happen. He's done everything so far in this opening start, as the black drops in. Still 17 points, still 2 more reds for Selby to try and pot. And another observation I actually noticed so far in the match, I haven't noticed a single attempt for the players to split up the bunch from the blue. I mean, directly. They always try to do it from the cushion. I mean, I've seen it a lot of the times, Williams especially doing it from the black, which is inconvenient to do that anyway. But every time the players have lined up on the blue, they always seem to have a cushion in between, preferring that one over a traditional shunt into the reds from the blue directly with a lot of angle in there. But Selby maybe will break that tendency. He's got one more shot of the red until you have to do that. But once again, just going for the black. So neither player just seems to be going for that traditional blue shot split. I think Selby will take any sort of split he can as long as he lands on the red from this black. And he's done this one really nicely, but hasn't got an awful lot of luck. And unless he can go for the cut into the right corner pocket, I think this has to be a safety once again. So both players have not been lucky with those types of shots. And I think I have to say have been both compromised by the inability to get on the top side of the blue. And as I say, always going to be a lot harder to be doing that from the black and from the black area there. So he has got a long shot into the yellow pocket though, and has been thinking for a while about this. Does decide to go for it and misses it. A lot of power on that. Where's the red ball going to end up? It's going to end up favorably for Mark Williams, as now the break does end on 33 for Selby, and Williams will step up to the table. The position is still far from ideal, but it's certainly the one that you can grab a couple of points from, as he starts off well with a good rest shot, lands well on the brown or the yellow, depends on which one you'll take. Probably the yellow, I think. Yeah, decides to go for the yellow in the end, just using one cushion and landing on either of the reds onto the left-hand side, right-hand side, I should say, of the screen. So 3 plays 33. It's almost like Ricciardo against Verstappen all over again. Change that to 4 for Mark Williams. So hasn't got too many points between himself and Mark Selby, with it being 29 now. 22 with this black going in, but as I say, this position still needs working on, and that red that is resting on that left cushion is going to be important for Williams in the latter stages of this frame, because this still could be the winning frame for Williams, as he only needs one more. It looked like Selby was going to try and run away with it, but that mistake with the positional play and the failed red attempt into the yellow pocket has now put Williams right back in it, with him already covering half of the points deficit, giving himself 17 points on the board and developing position quite nicely, I would say. You know, only 4 more reds that are not really in the playable condition as of yet. And has got a pink now to go back on his spot. Won't be interfering too heavily with the run of play for Williams. He's got a couple of reds into the corner or the middle, depends where you would like to play them, until he'll have to do some more damage to the pink and the 3 red colors, the red balls I should say, underneath it. I think he's got the angle to do it here. Still has to make sure he lands on one. And yeah, a clever shot there from Williams. Once again, I think he will be unhappy with the way he hasn't landed on one, but he always had a backup option into the middle. So clever shot and clever way to play it. Still awkward for him to be bridging over this one. Not a giver this one. Has to be careful he doesn't catch the front jaw. He plays this one absolutely perfectly. Just rolls it through. It looked for a moment like it was a little bit of a concern in his face. And now the points start mounting for him. And the problems start mounting for Mark Selby, as I think he'll be really, really happy that that red on the left cushion is there. And 5 points ahead already. Could make it around 22 points clear. Should he get those 3 reds with pink or black. And then, of course, we'll need another red and a color, the last of them all. The last of us. The last of reds for Mark Williams. For now, he needs to focus on getting 3 reds with 3 colors. And the last color will see him potentially try and nudge that red towards the middle pocket. Well, may try it now, actually. He's got the angle for it, but decides against that, so go for the safe option. 12 points clear now. Still around 14 he can get around out of those two, so will be 26 points. So still a red and a color will be needed for him to get this frame and much won in this visit to the in this visit to the table, I should say. 52 points once again. Nicely done there. Now then, this is the interesting zone. These 3-4 shots from here are going to be really key. So decides to play for the black, and I think he was trying to end up really straight on it, just so you can screw back heavily onto the cushion and just nudge that red in towards the middle or potentially green pocket, depends on what the outcome will be. So important shot this is for potentially for the match, and he hasn't done it, so he's gone against that, sort of try and screw back into the red. So he attempts a double here, and this is a potential frame ball and a match ball in one pot here for a double for Mark Williams. In it goes. Brilliant shot there from Williams. Selby now will need snookers, still needs a color here to put Selby completely out of the equation. But what a pot this was under pressure, you know, on the badge ball. It's almost identical to the one that Maguire was facing, you know, in terms of the pressure ball, where he had Zhao Xington pot the match ball, commit a foul at the same moment, and now only Mark Williams could have been the man to pot the frame ball off a double, gets the black ball as well, and it's now game over, says Kevin. Yes, indeed, it is game over for Selby. He put up a decent fight, you know, was able to come back from 3-0 down to 3-0, and will come back to the table, understandably so, with 35 points on the table. So you'll need 2 snookers to tie. So I think it will be a matter of hopefully minutes until Williams can get over the line, or until Selby can get at least one of those snookers in his favor. Needs to start off nicely. Has got the brown in between the yellow. Can Williams get through to it? Not really. And the risk there straight away was positioning the yellow next to the black. So could concede 7 points in one shot there. And nicely done though. Really good use of left spin there from Williams. And this time 35 points, reminder, is the gap between the players. Just have to figure this one out. There you go. That's done now. Because it'll show 20 points left. This gives, of course, 27 points left. As I think it's a good chance here for Williams to just try and roll that yellow quite close to the pocket. Decides against that, so decides to go for a safety shot himself. Hasn't quite done as much damage on it. And short of pace there, the yellow ball. So Selby will once again have a chance to have a snooker attempt of some sort. Once again, just has a little look to the crowd. They must, yeah, he must not like them at all. Once again, hesitation before his shot. Gives a death look to the crowd. One of the crowd members has been doing that throughout his campaign here at Wuhan Open. And has tried a decent attempt there. Not sure if Williams can see the edge of the yellow, or he can swerve around it. I think he'll go for the second option and just try and swerve around the green. Shouldn't be too difficult. And gets it comfortably in the end. But puts an invitation there, I would say, for Selby to put up a snooker of some sort in behind the brown. I think the cue ball will stay there and the yellow will travel some distance. As once again, nicely done there. Perfect positioning there from Selby. And leaving the yellow really away from the cushion. So a really good shot there from Selby, and certainly the one you would expect him to get at least 4 points from. Potentially, you never know, a free ball could be still up for grabs here. So important shot this is for Williams. Need to judge the pace perfectly. You know, you can afford to miss it, but you can't afford to give a free ball. Has he done that? I want to see. I'm not sure about it, because it's certainly 4 points here for Selby, as it's a foul for Mark Williams. Now Selby will have to check what he has to do here. So Williams is still all right, just about, because one more snooker is needed for Selby, but that is only to tie. Of course, if he wants to win, he'll need to get a higher value snooker or 2 of them. Let's see what his thinking will be here. I'm sure, as I'm listening without the audio, I'm not too sure if the free ball is called here. Doesn't look like it will be called. So I think it'll just be a safety shot from Selby. And he's now taking his time. Now I think the free ball is called because he's aiming for the brown. So this could be a massive changer here in terms of the run of play. As the pink now will be the ball between the yellow, and nicely done once again. The cue ball has got the angle for Williams to try and potentially see the edge of it. So expected Selby to do a little bit better there, as Williams tries to come back with a good snooker attempt of his own. Can't quite manage it. Cue ball is not sticking to the black on that particular occasion, so he's still alright, but Selby has put himself back in this frame and back in this match. One snooker is doable to force a respot, and needs to be careful with those types of shots. As, you know, all of a sudden he catches the blue there and he gives momentum to Williams. So what was looking to be like it was going to be Selby bringing up all sorts of pressure on Williams. All of a sudden Williams has a chance to at least roll the sort of yellow towards the green pocket and leave it there, but with the position of the green, not too sure it would be the best thing in the world for him to do. He's now has to be careful in terms of that. Mark Williams hasn't got 2 snooker cushion to his name anymore, so has to work hard for those types of positional shots. This time goes for a cross double. Ooh, only just missed. Where's the cue ball going to end up? Can't quite see behind Williams, but it's going to end up on top of the black there. So it looks like the yellow will disappear off from the table. I mean, Selby can try and just go backwards into it and play it off the cushion, send it down the table and leave the cue ball in around where the yellow is right now. Not the easiest shots to take on. I don't think that Selby will be attempting to pop the yellow just because of the green position. Don't want to have him snooker there. So Selby was trying to be too clever, I think. He's trying to pot the yellow off the cushion. So it's those types of shots that you attempt in the exhibition matches, but not when you're a snooker down on a match ball. And yeah, here, so Williams for the chance here to put this match to bed once again. And potentially does it once again. Remember, he was 2 snookers up, but gets himself now 2 points on the board. So 33 points is now the difference. And he misses there the green. So at the end of the break there for Williams, the green stays out and Selby stays at the table for now. Cue ball is nicely on the cushion there. So once again, 2 snookers to tie here for Selby. He's done one of them before. Can he try and do it once again here? But of course now he has one more ball to deal with. That of course makes it a lot more problematic for him to try and produce any snooker of some sort, especially being the one that Williams can't find escape from. Of course, remember, he has to do it twice because you're not allowed to be putting your opponent back in this position when you're so many points behind and you can't possibly tie. Now Williams once again leaving the double chance here for Selby as a little invitation, but invitation which of course will be refused by Selby, which he can't afford to be putting any more of those. I think if the green disappears from the table, it will probably be a frame and match conceded here, no matter who pots it, whether it's going to be Mark Williams or Mark Selby. But this is a good line here from Selby, and this is a really good shot. The question mark is, has he just overrun it slightly, or is Williams going to be forced to play off that top cushion? The answer is the latter. It's a top cushion escape here, and it's a lot of space to miss it potentially, but what a wonderful shot that is from Mark Williams. Catches with full ball, full on the face, and doesn't let easy 4 points here for Selby. Once again, a little distance between the cue ball and the green, which is always a promising sign in terms of getting the snooker placed. But yeah, you can see there, Selby just not too sure which ball to try and land the cue ball in behind. I think the green will be sent back to its area. Didn't want the green to catch the black there, and it will land quite close to the green pocket, still nowhere near the potable angle, but will give Williams a chance to be back in this sort of safety battle. And yeah, doesn't decide to do anything clever, just puts a little bit of distance between the green and the cushion, and a little bit of space between the green or any other colors. So nothing easy in terms of snooker making from this position. Selby will just check all of his chances to try and see what he can do. But it looks like he has lost his chance there, Selby, with the first snooker that he got on the yellow. Should have done better with the free ball that he had. And this time, it's a decent safety shot from Selby, but it's nowhere near good enough if you want to place a snooker. So similar position to the one Williams had to escape from a shot ago. So I think he'll transition the green very much towards its own pocket and get potentially blue in the way. Tried to do that, and I think he's done that, you know. I'm pretty sure that Selby can't see entirety of the green ball, so you have to just send that one from the cushion in towards the green. Does it nicely, doesn't want a double kiss though, and he's got it. And he'll probably be a frame conceded here, and it is a frame and match conceded here from Mark Selby. So in the end, Mark Williams does get over the line. Mark Selby tried his best in the end to try and force a decider, but he couldn't do that, couldn't find a second snooker, and it's Williams that progresses to the quarterfinal to become the third person to book his spot in the 1/4 round of the Wuhan Open here. So Mark Selby crashes out after putting up a decent performance here to Mark Williams, and it's the Welshman that comes out victorious here. Thanks for you for streaming. No worries, Kevin. Happy days. Happy days indeed. And yeah, if you're interested, feel free to join up for the stream in a couple of hours time, in 2 hours time exactly, I should say, in 7:30 in the Chinese time and 12:30 if you're watching it in the UK. It'll be Judd Trump against Gary Wilson. For now though, thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be back for some more action. For now, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. We'll see you here for more action on the snooker table.